Chapter 358. Black Setsu's eyes were erratic, and his brain was working very fast. It's been a long time. This means that Shimizu Garashi has crossed paths with one of them, which is why they are doubting themselves. The key is disgust. With Shimizu Garashi's tolerance, he wouldn't even care about his enemies on the battlefield, let alone disgust them. In Black Setsu's opinion, there are only two times that deserve this evaluation. One is when he added fuel to the fire, and the other is when the Kyuubi rebellion happened. So, this fire will either burn me or it will burn Ibito. Although they haven't thought about it yet, as long as they integrate the information, it won't be difficult to make the corresponding guess. Of course, guessing doesn't mean anything, but once the seed of doubt is planted, many of his future plans can't be carried out. I have to decide the answer before they suspect me. Thinking of this, Black Setsu decisively threw the blame. It seems that the god of ninjas noticed something from the Kyuubi rebellion, so he found Aizen through our aura. Bordered Soil's eyes widened. What is Black Setsu doing? Is he going to betray him? Yahiko was also surprised and couldn't help but look at Bordered Soil. The Kyuubi rebellion. Hoodlum, are you really Uchiha Madara? This time the three newcomers were also shocked. Is this organization so fierce? Saving Shimizu Garashi is one thing, but it's also related to the Kyuubi rebellion, and even Uchiha Madara came out. Raiga was secretly shocked. Uchiha Madara? Could it be that Hashirama is also there? Kakuzu was anxious. When the paper girl invited him, she said that there was someone in their organization who could use Mokutan. He didn't believe it at that time, but now it seems that Hashirama wanted to talk to him about something. The Kyuubi rebellion, Uchiha Madara. Sasori glanced at Aizen beside him, and seeing his calm eyes, he thought to himself, is this also part of your plan? Because he noticed this, he deliberately emphasized how Shimizu Garashi discovered it. Bordered Soil clasped his hands behind his back and said in a low and restrained voice, I didn't expect that I would still be discovered by you after hiding so deeply. Yes, I am handsome and wise, the incarnation of a hero and an Azura, Uchiha Madara. Yahiko was confused. Is this guy really Uchiha Madara? At this time, Black Setsu said, the Kyuubi's rebellion was indeed driven by Uchiha Madara, but he's dead now. The Bordered Soil glared at him and made a white crane spreading its wings. When did I die? How could I possibly die? Black Setsu shrugged. I was the first monster cultivated by Madara-sama. Hoodlum was cultivated by Madara-sama with his and Hashirama's genes, and he was the successor of the Will Inheritor. So he can use Mokutan and often fantasize himself as Madara-sama. That's a lot of information. Everyone was stunned, not because the word genes were too high-end but because they could still guess the meaning. But because they could guess it, they were at a loss. Can the genes of two men be combined? However, from the point that Hoodlum can use Mokutan, it seems not impossible. So, this senpai is actually the illegitimate son of Uchiha Madara and Hashirama? Raiga was shocked. Just when they were thinking that Uchiha Madara really knew how to play, the corners of the Bordered Soil's mouth twitched wildly under the mask. Black Setsu, this bastard, what kind of bullshit setting did he add to me? He made me a combination of two men? It's outrageous. However, when he thought of his plan to create a world with Rin, the Bordered Soil forced himself to endure and continue to play the fool. What illegitimate son? I'm more like their illegitimate father. Why do I have their abilities? Of course it's because they are both my sons. The Bordered Soil laughed with his hands on his hips. You didn't expect that the two of them are actually brothers. This time, it was Black Setsu's turn to look strange. He didn't tell the Bordered Soil about the reincarnation of chakra. So this time the Bordered Soil accidentally blackmailed the Six Paths? Yahiko temporarily dispelled his doubts and looked at Black Setsu and asked, you just said that the Kyuubi's rebellion was driven by Uchiha Madara, and he's dead? Black Setsu spread out his hands. He was too old and he wanted to go crazy before he died, and personally destroy the wood leaf that Hashirama built. After all, he didn't believe that Hashirama would kill him for the sake of wood leaf. Because of this, Madara-sama's will was depressed, and he spent decades in a daze, and he didn't even know what was happening outside. Everyone was confused again. What's going on with this gay atmosphere? From this guy's narration, Uchiha Madara was jealous. Jealous of Woodleaf? Not to mention them, even the Bordered Soil was shocked. He couldn't even tell whether Black Setsu was telling the truth or not. Because, during the time when Madara taught him, he found that Madara did have a special feeling for Hashirama. It's just that he didn't think about it at that time, and he thought that Madara just regarded Hashirama as a good friend. Thinking about it, the Bordered Soil couldn't help but have a complicated expression. I didn't expect that Madara and I are actually the same kind of people. After successfully diverting everyone's attention with the 2 rumors about Madara, Black Zetsu was secretly relieved. It seems that the danger of being exposed is finally over. As for Madara's bad reputation, what does it have to do with him? Besides, with Uchiha Madara's character, he might be happy with this kind of comment. Thinking of this, Black Zetsu nodded secretly. That's right, how can I cheat my nephew? Abandoning some strange scenes in his mind, Yahiko asked again. You just said that Hashirama killed Madara? It's the history you are familiar with. Black Zetsu smiled. It's just that Madara-sama used some kind of fake death to escape. Everyone nodded. So that's how it is. It's just that they didn't expect Madara to be such a person. In this strange silence, Black Zetsu took the initiative to explain. In short, I and Hoodlum inherited the will of Madara-sama, and our goal is to destroy Woodleaf. It's just that Woodleaf is too strong or Shimizu Garashi is too strong, so after knowing your purpose, we took the initiative to contact you, hoping to use the power of the organization to destroy Woodleaf. So that's how it is. Yahiko was a little dissatisfied. We are changing the ninja world in a revolutionary way, and unifying the ninja world into a country, which is fundamentally different from your terrorist attack method. Hee whatever. Black Zetsu waved his hand. As long as Woodleaf can disappear in the end, it's okay. Chapter 359. It's okay to retaliate against Woodleaf, but don't bring the fire of war to civilians. Yahiko warned. Yahiko-san, we know. Bordered Soil laughed. At this time, Black Zetsu suddenly said. Actually, Madara-sama told us how to defeat Woodleaf before he died. Conan questioned. Then why didn't he use it himself? Black Zetsu shrugged. Madara-sama has been living in seclusion for too long. He didn't even know about Hashirama's death. When he found out, he didn't have time to implement this method. Yahiko asked curiously. What method is it? Catch a tailed beast. Black Zetsu said. Catch a tailed beast? Nagato frowned. It's not difficult to catch them, but what's the use of them? Let Woodleaf catch them as pets? After all, Konoha has Shimizu Shushi, and for Shimizu Shushi, isn't it a piece of cake for him to make the 998 hands of the Bijou disappear? Of course, the strength of a tailed beast is not worth mentioning, but that doesn't mean that they are useless. Bordered Soil laughed. Raiga couldn't help but feel shocked when he heard these people talking about how tailed beasts were useless. It was as if they didn't take tailed beasts seriously at all. Are they serious? That's a tailed beast. Raiga couldn't help but look around. The elders in the organization were very calm, and Sasori didn't seem to care about this matter. His friend frowned, but he didn't say anything. Seeing this, Raiga couldn't help but be confused. Is he the only one who is weak and the others are all big shots? It shouldn't be. Isn't he a fighter? Yahiko quickly understood what hoodlum meant. You mean the tailed beast's huge chakra? Catching tailed beasts and using them as a power source? Yes, that's what I'm thinking. Yahiko shook his head. That's impossible, the Bijou's chakra is too violent. If it could be used, the 5 great shinobi villages would have already used it. Black Zetsu laughed. The 5 great ninja villages can't do it, but that doesn't mean we can't. Have you forgotten? We have the Ghetto Golem. Ghetto Golem? Nagato was puzzled. What does this have to do with tailed beast? Of course it's related. Black Zetsu said, Madara-sama said that the Sage of 6 Paths once created a monster called the Ghetto Mazo and used it as a cage to imprison the tailed beasts. Cage? Yahiko asked with his eyes wide open. It was by chance that we learned that you could summon the Ghetto Golem that we decided to join you. Black Zetsu nodded. But what's the use of this cage? Of course, it's the chakra used to tame the tailed beasts, turning them from violent to docile and useful. Legend has it that the Sage of the 6 Paths used the tame chakra to bring happiness to people. Is there such a legend? Conan still had some doubts. Of course there is. Black Zetsu continued, on the night of the Kyuubi's chaos, Hoodlum and I took advantage of the fact that Madara-sama controlled the Kyuubi and got a part of the chakra from the Kyuubi. After joining the organization, I threw the part of the Kyuubi's chakra into the Ghetto Golem as a raw material, and then something magical happened. Black Zetsu paused, then continued, the quality of the monster that was originally just an ordinary clone was much higher than before after adding the Kyuubi's chakra. If the previous high-quality monster can reach the level of a normal Chunin, then the strengthened monster can even reach the level of a Jonin. Only high-quality monsters can achieve this effect. The efficiency is relatively low, but Madara-sama also said that the Ghetto Golem is a product that the Sage of the Six Paths carefully created to imprison the tailed beasts. As long as we can capture all 9 tailed beasts and put them in the cage, the chakra of those tailed beasts will transform in the Ghetto Golem. At that time we can create an army of 100,000 jonins. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Since when can jonins be mass-produced? Looking at the 5 great shinobi villages, I'm afraid that even the most powerful Wood Leaf and Yunin can't take out 1,000 jonins. Although ordinary jonins are nothing to them, once the number of jonins is increased to hundreds, even they will be overwhelmed by the army. 100,000 jonins, this was a terrifying number that would make anyone tremble in fear. Yahiko took a few deep breaths and barely calmed down. Capturing the tailed beasts will definitely alert all parties, and once Shimizu Garashi's attention, it will be difficult to continue the capture operation. Moreover, not to mention that the army of 100,000 jonins is just a fantasy. Even if there are 100,000 jonins, they will be completely destroyed by Shimizu Garashi. Although this statement is a bit exaggerated, no one present refuted it. They have all seen the power of Shimizu Garashi, and they know that this is not impossible. Not to mention other things, just the tree world alone can kill thousands of people. 100,000 jonins is nothing more than a few would release. Of course I know this, so the capture of the tailed beasts must wait for the right time. Capture all the tailed beasts at once and don't give them time to react. Obito continued, as for Shimizu Shushi's threat, it's actually very simple. As long as we don't let the army gather together, it will be fine. No matter how strong he is, can he find and kill all the scattered monsters? Yahiko was silent for a moment and then asked seriously, then our current task is to accumulate strength, secretly plan, and wait for the right time to capture the tailed beasts in one fell swoop? In my opinion, this should be the best way. Yahiko slightly nodded. Then we will do as you said. Does anyone have any other opinions? Seeing that everyone was silent, Yahiko said, then let's adjourn, everyone follow the plan. At the end of the meeting, everyone's projection disappeared one after another, but there were still 4 figures left in the space. Yahiko looked around and said in surprise, Nagato, did your technique fail? No. Nagato shook his head slightly and looked at the opposite side. Uncle Aizen asked us to stay for a while. Deliberately leaving them? Conan looked serious. Uncle, do you suspect that there is a problem with one of them? That's not it. Aizen chuckled softly. It's just that there is something I don't want them to know for the time being. Something? Yahiko was puzzled. What is it? The Stone of Grayer. Eh? Is that the ore that has been making a lot of noise recently? Yahiko's eyes lit up. I heard that this ore is very powerful, and it seems that it can make people stronger. After all, they were born in the wild, so their understanding of the Stone of Grayer is naturally not as good as the 5 great ninja villages. Even the use of the Stone of Grayer is something they heard from others. That's the most wasteful use. Aizen smiled. The real use of the Stone of Grayer is to restore vitality. Aizen looked at Nagato. For example, Nagato, the vitality you lost can be restored through the Stone of Grayer. Chapter 360. Conan Yahiko was surprised at first, but when they heard this they were overjoyed. Can it really be done? Of course it's true. Haha, that's great. They also noticed that after using the power of the Rinnegan, Nagato's body seemed to be getting weaker and weaker. Even his eyes had dark circles. Although the situation was not particularly serious, this trend was already very worrying. They tried to persuade Nagato, but after that incident, Nagato believed that only with enough power could he protect the people he cared about. They couldn't persuade Nagato, so they were worried. Now that Uncle Aizen gave them such a big gift, of course they were overjoyed. But after the ecstasy, Yahiko was a little worried. I heard that the ruins only produced a little bit of Stone of Grayer. Uncle, you didn't get much. I don't know how much it can help Nagato recover. Conan also blamed himself. If I knew that Stone of Grayer had such a function, we would have gone together. Aizen laughed. Don't worry, I got a whole load. As long as Nagato doesn't go too far, he can make up for the loss of vitality. A whole load. Yahiko's eyes widened. Don't tell me you're the one who dug out the ruins? Don't misunderstand, the ruins are fake. Fake. Conan tilted his head and asked. Didn't you say that the ruins produce some Stone of Grayer? How can it be fake? Because I arranged the ruins and I put the ores in it. Aizen explained. Uncle, you did all this? Nagato was surprised. Aizen nodded slightly. Didn't I tell you before? After I woke up, I looked up a lot of historical materials including the records of the Grayer Empire. The last time I saw you, I noticed that you were losing vitality, so I thought of the stone of Grayer. After all, from the first time I saved you to the last time I met you, it was less than a year ago. You changed so much in such a short time, most likely because of your eyes. I was worried that the Rinnegan would drain your vitality, but I wasn't sure, so I agreed to your invitation. Yahiko was shocked. Uncle, you agreed to join the Akatsuki to save Nagato. Aizen just smiled and said nothing. Conan's eyes shined with emotion. Uncle, you are so good to us. Nagato said with a nasal voice. Uncle, thank you. Aizen shook his head. Don't worry. In short, after the last battle against Hanzo, I finally determined that every time you use the power of Rinnegan, you are squeezing the potential of your life. Hearing Aizen, Conan and worried. He looked at Nagato. Nagato shook his head. Don't worry about me. Uncle, didn't you find a solution for me? Aizen smiled. You are lucky. When I looked up the records of the Grayer Empire, I accidentally found a historical record. After the Grayer Empire was destroyed, some people volunteered to stay and guard the mineral veins to prevent the Stone of Grayer from causing another disaster. I didn't collect many Stone of Grayer, so it wouldn't be of much help to you, Nagato. So I used the collected Stone of Grayer to make a relic. I tried to lure out those who were guarding the mineral veins. I didn't expect that I would succeed. Is it the Book of Grayer? Nagato was surprised. Aizen froze for a moment, then his brain turned quickly. The corners of his mouth rose slightly. Yes, it was the Book of Grayer that those people snatched from the Lost. Unfortunately, I was one step too late. Sasori got the Book of Grayer ahead of time. Hearing this, Xiaonan couldn't help but cover her mouth with tears in her eyes. Could it be that you actually risked your life to appear in front of such a powerful enemy for the Book of Grayer? The illusionary space around him suddenly became chaotic. Nagato's mind was greatly shaken, and he almost couldn't maintain the genjutsu. Uncle, for me you actually... Aizen laughed. In fact, I deliberately exposed myself to attract their attention so that I could replace the Book of Grayer with Sasori. Speaking of which, I made Jew and hoodlums suffer for me. They even revealed their secrets. However, the three didn't pay attention to the two scapegoats. They were moved by Aizen's words. Uncle, you are so good to us. Why are you so good to us? The three of them were only 18 years old. They were at an emotional age. Aizen was the first person besides Jiraiya to give them fatherly love. This kind of care moved them to tears. Sai, seeing you reminds me of the past. I failed. I hope you succeed. Aizen sighed and then shook his head. Let's not talk about this. In fact, we were lucky this time. Fortunately, Shimizu Garashi didn't find a vein in the ruins. He didn't care about the Book of Grayer. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if he found out. The three were scared. Indeed, it was too dangerous. From Garashi's point of view, Aizen was related to the Kyuubi's rebellion. Thinking of this, the three were annoyed. Jew and Hoodlum, those two bastards, they almost got Uncle into trouble. Yes, if they had told us earlier, Uncle would have been prepared. It wouldn't have been so thrilling. Bordered Soil and Jew didn't know they were being despised. They were discussing in the underground of the grass country. Finally, Akatsuki is back on the right track of catching tailed beasts. Bordered Soil breathed a sigh of relief and then asked, Black Zetsu, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Black Zetsu's heart trembled. No way he had tried so hard to fool Bordered Soil. Could it be that Bordered Soil saw through his lies? Bordered Soil shouldn't have such wisdom. Black Zetsu's brain spun quickly. What explanation? That you made up the story about me being the illegitimate child of two men. Bordered Soil said with shame. That's it? Black Zetsu relaxed and pretended to be helpless. I had no choice. The situation was too urgent. If I didn't use some special means, I wouldn't have been able to fool them. Besides, even I don't mind making up rumors about my own body. Why would you care? That's true. Bordered Soil slightly nodded. But soon he reacted and stared at Black Zetsu. No, of course you don't mind. In that case you can be considered as my father. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging a thief as your father. Black Zetsu secretly cursed. But on the surface he said, think about Lin. Don't tell me you can't even bear this little shame for Lin? Lin. Bordered Soil calmed down. You are right. I can do anything for Lin. Black Zetsu's mouth twitched. He suddenly felt that having a son seemed to be a very dangerous thing. Throwing these messy thoughts aside, Black Zetsu said with a stern face, Next, Akatsuki will be dormant. But we can't relax. Bordered Soil recovered. What do you want to do? Black Zetsu said, The most important thing at present is to increase our right to speak in Akatsuki. Increase our right to speak? Bordered Soil pondered, The best way is to place our people in Akatsuki, but this person can't be seen to have any relationship with us. I suggest to consider from two aspects. First, the Uchiha clan. Black Setsu said euphemistically, the people of this clan are more idealistic. Bordered Soil nodded, yes, a small Uchiha clan can have two idealists, me and Madara at the same time. Maybe there's still potential in the clan that can be explored. Black Setsu laughed twice and continued, the second is Kirin under your control. In addition to Akatsuki, Kirin can also be a trump card in our hands. You are right, Kirin is one of the 5 great ninja villages. Sometimes it may be more useful than Akatsuki and... Bordered Soil said seriously, I can also find talents from Kirin and send them to Akatsuki. Chapter 361. After the Greyer Ruins incident, the shinobi world was calm for 3 years. However, behind this rare peace, there was an undercurrent quietly surging. Woodleaf Hyuga clan. In the hall, angry Hyuga clansmen were confronting several Umbu wearing animal masks. What did you say? A Hyuga clansman roared. Don't be impulsive, this is Naruto-sama's order, which is the will of Woodleaf. Ryoma said calmly. But we are the ones who were bullied. It was Yunin's people who coveted Hadasama's eyes that Hayashi-sama killed them. A Hyuga clansman said angrily. But it is also a fact that Yunin's important people died in your hands. For peace, this is a necessary sacrifice. Ryoma was still unmoved. But, no buts. Ryoma said coldly, does the Hyuga clan want to drag Woodleaf into the war for your own selfish reasons? Stop talking. Hayashi raised his right hand and motioned his clansmen to be quiet. Say, what is Yunin's condition? Hand over the murderer, Patriarch Hayashi's body. Ryoma said, only in this way the war will not break out and you can enjoy peace. Hearing this, the Hyuga clansmen's suppressed anger broke out. Hand over the Patriarch? This kind of thing is absolutely unacceptable. What do you think the Hyuga clan is? The Patriarch is the main family, I think Yunin's bastards just want to take the Byakugan. Actually, it's not impossible to turn the situation around. In this atmosphere, Ryoma suddenly said, it's just that Naruto-sama may have to go back and forth for this matter. However, before he finished he heard Hayashi say, no, I am willing to die. What? The corner of Ryoma's mouth twitched wildly, I haven't finished yet. I know what you are going to say but you don't have to say more. Hayashi looked indifferent, I will not agree. Of course he was aware of the other party's intentions. It was nothing more than for him to stand out and support Lord Naruto. It had been 3 years, and that Naruto hadn't even been able to control the Woodleaf clans, let alone gather all of Naruto's power. Of course, Danzo was unwilling, but after becoming Naruto because there was no one to deal with the aftermath for him, he couldn't act as unscrupulously as before. At the very least he needed a reasonable excuse. Therefore, when he learned that the person he killed was an important person in Yunin, Hayashi knew that this day would come sooner or later, and Danzo would not let go of this opportunity to threaten Hyuga. You bastard. The dragon horse's eyes were filled with killing intent. Do you want to die so badly? Of course I don't want to die, but there are some things that are more important than life itself. Hayashi spoke with a serious tone. He was saved by Garashi, taught by Garashi, and received a lot of favors from Garashi, so naturally he was very grateful to Garashi. Although he couldn't openly support Shushi like the other young people because of his family background, he couldn't do anything to help Danzo. Even so, he couldn't do it. Behind the screen in the hall, Hinata timidly poked her head out. She was only 3 years old and had no concept of many things, even the meaning of death was beyond her comprehension. What are father and everyone talking about? Why are they quarreling? Behind her, a clear and tender voice came. It's because of morality. Uncle doesn't want to betray his morality. Like father, he is also a supporter of Shimizu Garashi-sama. Niji said with longing in his eyes. Although he was only 1 year older than Hinata, as a branch family member he was much more mature mentally than Hinata. Not to mention, his father often told him about the deeds of Lord Naruto, and never concealed his admiration for him. Shimizu Garashi-sama? Hinata tilted her head and secretly remembered this name in her heart. In the hall, the conversation continued. Willing to die? Hayashi-sama, you have to think about it. Ryuma threatened. If you, as a member of the main family, lose the Byakugan, it will be a major blow to the Hyuga clan. Let me do it, I will die for him. This sudden voice startled everyone. Looking in the direction of the voice, a man who looked exactly like Hayashi walked out from the crowd. The only difference was that he had the mark of a caged bird on his forehead. Hisashi. Hisashi was surprised. Don't get me wrong, I still hate the main family as much as before. Hisashi looked indifferent, but now I can see more things clearly. No, you still have Niji. When did you become so long-winded? Ryuma's eyes were gloomy. These bastards would rather die than serve Naruto-sama. In his view, it was unforgivable. Haven't you said enough? What Yunin wants is the person who killed their leader. The person who killed Yunin's leader is actually me, but the night was dark and people didn't see my face at that time. Why does Naruto-sama still want to help Yunin investigate the truth? This bastard. Ryuma was annoyed. Naruto-sama originally wanted to win over the Hyuga clan, but these bastards dared to refuse their good intentions. When the other villages are forcing Konoha, Konoha can still use peace as an excuse, but if he helps the other villages to force Konoha, maybe the people in the village will say that Hokage-sama is Kumo's dog. Thinking of this, Ryuma said angrily, "Then you can die." Suddenly, a small figure rushed out from behind the screen and hugged Hisashi's leg. No, I don't want father to die. Looking down at Niji, Hisashi touched his head with gentle eyes. Don't be sad for me, I can die for my beliefs. However, before he finished speaking, Niji opened his arms to protect him behind him and yelled at Ryuma and others, if you want to target Garashi-sama, then go directly to him. Why do you have to trouble father and others, or, you don't even have the courage to face Garashi-sama? Hearing Niji's roar, everyone in the hall suddenly changed color. Although they could have guessed the intentions of Naruto-sama, there is still a difference between tacit understanding and openness, which is equivalent to bringing the dirty things in the shadows to the table. The old man in the Hyuga clan coughed again and again. Children's words carry no harm, children's words carry no harm. Please don't mind it. Ryuma's face was very ugly, but he still squeezed out a smile. Children, of course I won't mind. But at this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from outside the door. Is that so? I think what he said is quite reasonable. Isn't Naruto-sama's men a group of cowards? Chapter 362. Hearing these arrogant words, all the Umbu ninjas looked back with indifferent eyes. However, with just a glance, many people's expressions changed. It's him, Mizuki the wolf. Why is this madman here? Although 3 years had passed, the influence of Shimizu Shushi's name in Konoha had not subsided. On the contrary, it seemed to be getting more and more intense. The root cause was that many of the younger generation fanatically worshipped him and were committed to spreading his deeds. Among these people, the most fanatical and the most determined one was Mizuki. The most important thing is that he is powerful. Sage Mode, 3 Kekkei Genkai, and even the awe-inspiring power of Mokutan. When they think of Mizuki's claim that he mastered Mokutan by transplanting Shimizu Garashi's cells, they are envious and jealous. Obviously, he was a ninja with mediocre talent, and the normal growth of a chunin was his limit. But after following Shimizu Shushi, his life seemed to have changed, and he was now one of the top 5 ninjas in the village. Of course, this only included those who were still in Konoha. Ryuma also instantly became vigilant, not only because of his strength but also because this man is the same as him. If he is Danzo-sama's little loyal dog, then this man is undoubtedly Shimizu Garashi's dog. Dogs can bite people. Compared with their fear, the people of the Hyuga clan were much more relaxed. With Mizuki's strength, no one here can be his opponent. The most important thing is that Mizuki is just like Danzo-sama, he acts without any scruples. Niji also noticed the change in the mood of the people around him and he was excited. Is he the Mizuki-sama that father mentioned? He is so powerful he can scare others by himself. Looking at Mizuki, he couldn't help but think, Mizuki-sama is already so powerful, I don't know how powerful Garashi who can make Mizuki-sama follow him is? Mizuki, what are you doing here? Ryuma warned, you are not an Umbu member, you have no right to enter other people's house. Mizuki calmly looked to the side. Patriarch Hayashi? Hayashi quickly understood, Mizuki Jonin is my guest. Ryoma subconsciously clenched his fists. Is the Hyuga clan planning to completely fall to Mizuki's side? As for the purpose. Shueimu's lazy look suddenly turned solemn. I'm here to deliver Garashi's message. Deliver? Ryoma only felt funny. He is a Jonin and you are also a Jonin. What qualifications do you have to convey? Of course it's because in my heart only Garashi is. Shueimu opened and closed his mouth but no sound came out. But from the shape of his mouth, anyone could tell that he wanted to say, Naruto. Ryuma's face paled. Mizuki, you have to understand that only Danzo is Naruto. I know he's Naruto. Shueimu's face was full of disgust. At least on the surface I'll still show him some respect. You. Ryuma was shocked and angry. Although he knew that Shueimu couldn't care much about Naruto-sama, it was too arrogant to talk about this kind of thing openly. What about me? Mizuki sneered. When Sandaime-sama was in power, Danzo's attitude was similar to mine, right? But then he shook his head. No, I'm much more well-behaved than Naruto-sama. Enough. Ryuma shouted coldly. Naruto-sama is not someone you can comment on. What if I still want to comment? Mizuki provoked. What, do you want to fight with me? Ryuma's eyebrows twitched wildly. If he could fight he would have already done so. Because of Shimizu Garashi, even if Mizuki clearly expressed his opposition, Danzo didn't dare to go too far. He only dared to cause some trouble within the scope of the rules. But it was precisely those troubles that made others realize Mizuki's strength. Even without Shimizu Garashi, Mizuki alone had the strength to fight against them. Even Danzo himself wasn't sure. After all, he was Naruto. If he was defeated, he wouldn't have the face to call himself Naruto. Thinking of all the things that happened before, Ryuma took a deep breath. If you talk nonsense again, I will report it to Naruto-sama. Report it to your parents? Mizuki's eyes were full of contempt. He smiled contemptuously and walked past him toward Hayashi. Calm down. Ryuma took a few deep breaths, barely suppressing his anger. Hayashi-sama, you don't have to worry. Mizuki said calmly. Garashi said that he will go to Reikage to plead for you. Plead? Ryuma's heart twitched twice and he secretly thought, if he goes to Yunin, it's hard to say who will plead for mercy. After complaining, what followed was shock and surprise. That guy disappeared for 3 years and he reappeared because of such a trivial matter. Before he came, Naruto-sama told him in private. Yunin has been quiet for 3 years, and now they are making trouble again. Most likely they saw Shimizu Garashi missing for 3 years, and they couldn't help but test him. I don't think those cloud bastards would have thought that Clearwater Rinstone would reveal his true identity just by probing a little. Hearing Mizuki's words, Hayashi's voice trembled. Garashi-sama actually went to explain to Reikage for us. Mizuki said solemnly, Garashi is the light. As long as there is sunlight, he will exist. Xiaoning shouted excitedly, compared to some Kage, Garashi-sama is really 1,000 times better. Hearing this, Ryuma's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Yunin. Tsutai, I always feel a little uneasy. A looked at the side with some hesitation. If we force Wood Leaf like this, what if Shimizu Garashi comes? Reikage-sama. Don't worry, Shimizu Garashi is a person who cares about the overall situation. Tsutai looked serious. You mean even if Shimizu Garashi knows, he won't show up so as not to destroy the hard-won piece? I heard this and was excited. No, I mean. Tsutai's eyes were sincere. Even if he is angry, at most he will only beat you, Reikage-sama, and no one will die. A's mouth twitched slightly. Tsutai, how did you learn this? Tsutai shook his head slightly. Shimizu Garashi has been missing for 3 years, Namikaze Minato is out on a mission, Tsunade and Jiraiya of the Sannin left the village one after another, and inside Wood Leaf, the Naruto faction and the young faction supporting Shimizu Garashi are fighting with each other, and now Wood Leaf is at its weakest moment. In this case, the possibility of us getting the precious Byakugan is not small, and even if we fail, it's just a beating for Reikage-sama. No matter how you think about it, it's very beneficial. So, I'm just a Reikage? A's expression was complicated, and he immediately shook his head. Forget it, anyway, what's done is done, what's the point of thinking so much? Chapter 363. While the two were talking, a Jonin ran in with a panicked look on his face. Reikage-sama, it's not good, Wood Leaf, Shimizu Garashi said he wants to visit you, and he is already waiting at the entrance of the village. A's eyes widened. Are you sure it's him? The Jonin nodded. A man like him, as long as you see him once, it's absolutely impossible to mistake him. Hearing this, A subconsciously looked to the left. Seeing the Reikage-sama's resentful eyes, Tsutai looked indifferent. Reikage-sama, do you need me to disperse the surrounding guards in advance? Disperse? What? A suddenly realized that Tsutai thought he was going to be beaten, so he asked him to disperse the audience in advance? Thinking of this, A gritted his teeth and said, No need. The Jonin who came in was worried. Reikage-sama, do you want to go out and hide for a while? What? I'm the Reikage-sama, how can I be afraid of him in my own village? A was ashamed and angry. He shouted, Let him come in, I'll wait here. If he comes here as a guest, then it's okay, but if he dares to make trouble, humph. I'll let him know how powerful my fist is. The Jonin couldn't help but look at him with admiration, thinking to himself, Reikage-sama, even if he dies he will protect Yunin's dignity. A's facial muscles twitched. Why did he feel that this guy was looking at him with a very rude look? Soon, the Jonin who came in went to receive Garashi. A sat in his seat with a dignified expression. Tsutai, if we really fight, do you think I can win? Tsutai looked at him with surprise. Reikage-sama, is this your way of expressing humor? A's mouth twitched. Don't be ridiculous, I'm serious. Tsutai sighed. This question itself is ridiculous. Seeing the Reikage-sama's insistence, Tsutai said euphemistically, Reikage-sama, don't you like fighting? Just enjoy the process of fighting as much as possible. A's face turned black. I like fighting, but that doesn't mean I like to be abused. He can accept an evenly matched battle, or the gap between them isn't too big, but if he is beaten from the beginning to the end, then it's not fun. At this time, light footsteps came from outside the door. AI quickly sat up straight and picked up the document beside him, putting on a calm and indifferent look. Garashi-sama, please come in, Reikage-sama is inside. Perhaps the Jonin didn't want to see the Reikage-sama being beaten up, so after delivering Rinsei, the Jonin quickly left. Shushi did not mind and calmly stepped into the room. Reikage-sama. Brother Garashi. It's really long. Hearing Tsutai. Tsutai looked dissatisfied. Tsutai was surprised. Why didn't you a guest come here? Tsutai said was to Aa was to Tua. After a little greeting A asked, Brother Garashi, how do you have time to visit our Yunin? Garashi said, Reikage-sama, I'm here to talk to you about the misunderstanding between Woodleaf and Yunin. Seeing that Garashi didn't pressure him, A was a little relieved, and then pretended to be puzzled. What misunderstanding? Tsutai said in a timely manner, it should be a few days ago, Hasegawa represented Yunin to form an alliance with Woodleaf, but he was killed by the Hyuga clan. It turned out to be this matter. A suddenly realized and immediately said bitterly, Brother Garashi, it's not that I don't want to give you face, but Woodleaf went too far this time. Not only did the Hyuga clan kill our people, but they also slandered Hasegawa for stealing their eyes. How could our Yunin do such a shameless thing? Looking at Tsutai's indignant appearance, Garashi was speechless. Do you need me to remind you how Yunin got her Kekkei Genkai? Isn't it all by cheating again and again? Moreover, even if Hasegawa really did something too much, he should be dealt with by our Yunin, not by your Woodleaf people. How do we know if the Hyuga clan people are lying? Seeing that Tsutai still wanted to say a few more words, Garashi quickly said, in fact, it's very simple to solve this matter. A was stunned. Simple? With his Yunin thinking, the simplest way is of course to solve the problem with his fists. Thinking of this, A's heart was filled with grief and indignation. This bastard really wants to beat me. Garashi didn't know what he was thinking and just asked with a smile. Reikage-sama, you should have heard of the forbidden technique developed by Naidame Naruto Edo Tensei, right? You don't want to beat me? A breathed a sigh of relief and immediately widened his eyes. Do you want to use the Edo Tensei to resurrect Hasegawa? Garashi nodded with a smile. Using the death row prisoner as a sacrifice, the soul of the dead Yunin ninja will be recalled to the world, and then using genjutsu to control him to tell the truth, it will be solved. If you don't believe me, you can arrange the person who used the genjutsu. Hearing this, A was shocked and broke out in cold sweat. He originally thought that even if Woodleaf can produce evidence, he can also push the blame to Hasegawa, so it has nothing to do with Yunin. After all, which village doesn't have a few rebellious ninjas? But if Hasegawa points out that they did it, then it will be a bit troublesome. Ha ha ha, how can I not believe you? A laughed twice and his eyes evaded. But isn't this too inhumane? Death row prisoners are also human, it's too much to kill them in such a cruel way. I didn't expect Yunin-sama to be so kind. Garashi sighed and then said, then let's change the way after the normal execution, use their bodies as a sacrifice with my current strength, it's not too difficult to do this. Cough cough cough. A coughed crazily and while coughing he winked at Tsutai. Reikage-sama, is your throat uncomfortable? Garashi asked with concern. Reikage-sama's body is delicate, maybe it's because of the cold. Tsutai slightly mocked Reikage-sama, and then said seriously, the reputation of Edo Tensei is too bad, how can we let Garashi-sama's reputation be damaged because of this kind of thing? A's eyes lit up and he slapped the table and said, yes, it's better not to use such a bad technique. How about this, Garashi, since you personally came to explain this matter, then I will definitely give you face. After that, I will seriously investigate the truth of the matter, and I will never wrongly accuse any good person. Garashi's eyes were strange. Generally speaking, shouldn't there be a follow-up sentence? You will never let any bad person go? Chapter 364. Garashi didn't intend to force too much and said with a gentle smile, "Then I will wait for the results of your investigation, Reikage-sama." AI breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Shushi didn't continue to harp on his story. Then he laughed and said, "Ha, let's not talk about these things. By the way, Shushi, where have you been for the past 3 years? There is no news about you in the whole ninja world." Hearing Reikage's question, Tutai was also very curious about it. Garashi said seriously, "In the past 3 years, I have been investigating a secret organization. In order not to be discovered by them, I have completely hidden my tracks." Secret organization? A's eyes were dignified. "Yes, I have also received similar information. There is indeed a force secretly developing in our world." Garashi was surprised. "You also know about it?" AI smiled proudly. "No matter what, Kumo is still one of the 5 great shinobi villages, and in terms of intelligence, we are much more well-informed than you. It's good that you know. I was still thinking about how to explain the Hollow organization to you." Garashi said. "Hollow? Shouldn't it be Akatsuki?" I asked in surprise. "Akatsuki?" This time, it was Garashi's turn to be puzzled. "Did you make a mistake? Did you hear Hollow instead of Akatsuki?" I asked again. "No, what I found is Hollow," Garashi said with certainty. "Does that secret organization actually have 2 names?" Sudai couldn't help but ask. "This kind of thing can't be solved by exchanging information?" I couldn't wait to say, "I will go first." The Akatsuki seems to be secretly spreading dangerous ideas of revolution and war in those small countries. They even spread the methods of learning chakra and ninjutsu, and then recruit those who have the qualifications to become ninjas into their organization. Spreading the seeds of power among the masses, and then mobilizing the power of the masses? I didn't expect that there is such a knowledgeable person in the Akatsuki. Garashi praised without the slightest psychological burden. The one who proposed this idea in the Akatsuki was his other self. Ace's face turned black. "Garashi-san, whose side are you on?" Garashi smiled. "Sorry, please continue." A continued, "Power breeds desire and ambition. In the past, the right to speak was in the hands of the 5 great ninja villages. Even if those ninjas from small villages want to mess around, they must consider the attitude of the 5 great ninja villages. But now it is different. The seeds of power is spread all over the world. The ambition that we have suppressed in the past is likely to explode with the increase of their number. But what about those ordinary peoples? They have their own power. They are to be destroyed. They will only bring chaos and bring destruction. I tease, estius worry as it, estites, esses, s. Garashi nodded slightly. "Are not without reason. Too much power will make people unable to see themselves clearly. Even the 5 great ninja villages have all kinds of idiots. The proportion of idiots produced in those small countries will only be higher. Moreover, vision is indeed a very important point. The ninjas of the 5 great ninja villages can understand the strength of the strong and know respect, but the lucky ones who suddenly gain power will not have this kind of vision. However, even if the spread of power will bring countless chaos and disasters, for those ordinary people, most of them are more willing to see such a change. The reason is simple. Those ninjas may be able to restrain their desires, but the war will not. The war will destroy everything they have. In fact, it's hard to say whether spreading the seeds of power is right or wrong, but for Garashi, what he cares about is the improvement of the overall level of the ninja world. Even if those ordinary people can't get good training with their population base, there will always be a few amazing geniuses. For the 5 great ninja villages, suddenly there are so many ninjas chasing after them. This kind of crisis awareness will make them not dare to stop moving forward. "You said fiercely, that Akatsuki organization is breaking the foundation of our 5 great ninja villages, subverting the order of the ninja world. We must not let them go." Garashi asked, "Do you know where their base is?" AI said discouragingly, "I don't know. That group of bastards hid too well. If it wasn't for the big movement, we would still be in the dark. Since we can't catch them, let's focus on more important things." "More important things?" Garashi nodded. "It's the attitude towards these emerging ninjas." AI looked dignified. "This is indeed a troublesome matter. Chakra and various low-level ninjutsu have been spread. It's too late to ban it now." Garashi pondered for a moment and said, "Instead of banning it, it's better for us to take the initiative to spread it." AI was stunned. "Take the initiative to spread it?" Garashi nodded vigorously. If your information is not wrong, that organization is likely to be afraid of being detected by us, so they only spread it within the range of those small countries. If we are slow, we may even lose the battlefield in our own country. AI looked serious. Indeed, even in the village, not everyone is qualified to become a ninja, let alone a country. Yunnan village can come up with 20,000 ninjas, but in the vast land of lightning, only the daimyo has thousands of ninja guards around him. Once that organization reaches into their territory, more than half of the people in the land of lightning, which he regarded as his own land, will fall to the Akatsuki's side. Thinking of this, AI was a little anxious. We have to act quickly. Don't be impatient. Garashi smiled. Compared with that Akatsuki, we also have our own advantages, that is, the long-standing authority of the 5 great ninja villages. As long as we publicize the secrets of chakra and ninjutsu, the majority will be willing to join us. Moreover, we only spread the low-level ninjutsu. If you want to learn more advanced ninjutsu, you have to join us or that Akatsuki. That's the biggest difference between us and that Akatsuki. AI nodded and smiled happily. Yes, when it comes to official authority, that group of little rats in the sewers can't compare with us in 10 years. Since we want enough authority, why don't we hold a meeting of the 5 kages? And then the 5 kages will announce this matter at the same time? Tsutai proposed. Maybe we can draw out the Akatsuki hidden in the dark? Great. AI was excited. He liked this kind of big scene, patted Tsutai's shoulder and praised, Tsutai, your brain is good. Chapter 365. After discussing the matter of the 5 Kages summit, AI suddenly remembered that he hadn't exchanged information with the other party yet. Brother Shushi, is there any connection between the Hollow and the Akatsuki I just mentioned? There shouldn't be. Garashi said, the Hollow organization I found doesn't seem to be interested in ordinary people. Most of their members have strange physiques or Kekkei Genkai. Is that so? How strong are they? I asked with great interest. Very strong, especially the person I met who is suspected to be the leader. Garashi said with a dignified expression. His strength is not weaker than mine. What? Not weaker than you? AI was shocked. Garashi nodded solemnly. Well, maybe even stronger than me. AI's eyes were blank. He only felt that the shinobi world suddenly became strange. The Akatsuki appeared out of nowhere. But how come there is an even more terrifying Hollow organization? Could it be that they have been living in the surface world all this time? They have never been exposed to the truth of the world. Dodai took a deep breath and barely calmed down the shock in his heart. There is such a terrifying organization, it's really unimaginable. It's precisely because there is a huge threat behind the peace of the shinobi world that I want to say, Garashi said earnestly, don't waste your strength on meaningless internal friction. AI knew that Garashi was referring to the matter of them fanning the flames behind the scenes. He couldn't help but laugh twice. Ha, of course. Yunnan has always been responsible for maintaining peace. Garashi shook his head slightly. In short, I will trouble you with the 5 Kage summit. AI was puzzled. You don't plan to participate? If I also go, your plan to lure the snake out of the hole will not succeed, Garashi said helplessly. That's true, AI nodded and said. After Garashi left, AI asked with a heavy face, Dodai, what do you think of the Hollow organization he just mentioned? With Shimizu Garashi's strength, he can do whatever he wants. There is no need to fabricate a Hollow organization to deceive us. Dodai pondered. Moreover, before we noticed the Akatsuki, didn't we also think that the forces on the surface of the shinobi world were all the forces in the world? However, if they can make Shimizu Garashi hesitate, this hidden organization is really terrible. AI said in a deep voice. Dodai nodded heavily. Although Shimizu Garashi is powerful, he is, after all, within the rules. As long as he doesn't do too much, his strength won't have much impact on us. But this Hollow organization that suddenly appeared is different. These secret organizations have always been unscrupulous, have no scruples, they can do anything. Especially the person Shimizu Shushi mentioned who can rival him. If that person wantonly kills, we won't be able to resist. We can only pray for Shimizu Shushi's protection and form a group under his leadership. Only then can we survive. AI's face was gloomy. If it really comes to that point, are we still Yunnan? Call Shimizu Garashi. From today onwards I will start extreme training. Since there is someone other than Shimizu Garashi who can do it, it means that this is a field that humans can reach. Walking out of Yunnan village, Garashi thought about the Hollow organization he just mentioned and thought it was a little funny. This organization does exist, But the problem is that the entire organization is made up of old, weak, sick and disabled people except for Aizen. No one can fight. Of course, it's not wrong to say that they are strong. Aizen alone is enough to suppress any force. However, it's not time for Aizen to make a move yet. This time I will let them stir up the water for me. When he left Yunnan village, Aizen came to a space full of bubbles and spring water. There were many giant crabs guarding this space. This space was created by the Otsutsuki clan on the moon, connecting the shinobi world and the moon together. Although it's not the first time I've come here, every time I see this strange scene, I'm shocked from the bottom of my heart. Aizen sighed as he walked. With his mastery of the flying thunder god jutsu, it's not difficult for him to cross space, but it's still too far to go from the shinobi world to the moon. But Himura was able to open a space channel that is still stable even after thousands of years. This kind of attainment in space is really amazing. Under the respectful salute of the surrounding crab guards, Aizen crossed the channel and arrived on the moon again. As soon as he set foot on the moon, he felt an inexplicable throbbing. It's starting again. Aizen looked at his feet with a dignified expression. Fortunately, I used the Ryumayaku chakra as the shell for the Jubi. If I used the Geto Mazo, I'm afraid that the moment I set foot on the moon, Kagaya's consciousness would have been awakened. Suddenly, a slight sobbing sound came from not far away. Unlike the moon in his previous life, the moon in this world is the product of sealing Kagaya. Its gravity is quite strong. Not only is there oxygen for breathing, but also sound can be transmitted through the air. Following the direction of the sound, Aizen walked over. Behind a rock, a 4 or 5-year-old boy was crying in a low voice. If you look carefully, you can see that the boy's eye sockets are empty. He doesn't even have eyeballs. Tonari, why are you crying here alone? Hearing this gentle voice, Tonari stopped crying and shouted in surprise, Aizen-sama, you came to see us again? Yes, I'm done with the things below. Aizen leaned down and touched the boy's head gently. Can you tell me why you're crying? Hearing Aizen's words, Tonari was depressed again and didn't speak. Aizen patiently accompanied him and didn't urge him. After a long time, Tonari clenched his small fist and asked, Aizen-sama, do you have eyes? Aizen said softly, I do. Tonari asked again, what about everyone on the ground? Do they also have eyes? Aizen nodded, normally they all have eyes. But why don't I? Father took me to the world below. There were many people in the world below. It wasn't like the moon where there was only me and father. Their world was very warm and lively. I wanted to join them, but the other children said that I was an eyeless monster and even threw stones at me. I didn't do anything wrong. Why don't they like me? What you need is a bowl of hot chicken soup for the soul. Aizen thought and comforted, everyone has flaws just like an apple bitten by God. Some people have bigger flaws because God likes their fragrance. Tonari had never drunk such chicken soup before. He blushed and asked helplessly, I really, because it's so sweet. Of course it's true, you're the special one. Chapter 366. A child's sorrow came and went quickly. Tonari quickly forgot about his pain and asked happily, Ai-sama, are you here to see my father? Aizen smiled. Actually, I'm here to see you. Of course, I need to discuss this matter with your father. I don't understand. Tonari tilted his head. Anyway, let's go see my father first. After that, Tonari pulled Aizen's hand and walked towards the castle. As he walked, he chattered non-stop. After entering the castle, many puppets appeared around them. Unlike Sand Crypsis, which required chakra to control, these puppets didn't need to be controlled. They even had artificial intelligence. When they saw Tonari, the puppets stopped what they were doing and bowed respectfully. They entered the castle without any obstructions. There was a middle-aged man who looked very refined sitting at the long dining table. However, his face was a little pale, and his eyes were as empty as Mo Ren's. Tonari, where are you going? The middle-aged man suddenly stopped and asked respectfully, Ai-sama, are you here? Kirito, your heart is getting better and better. Aizen praised with a smile. You're too kind. It's just a small improvement. Kirito said modestly. Naturally, he remembered how shocked he was when this man suddenly appeared in front of him 2 years ago. He even walked in calmly without any reaction from the ancestral barrier. From that moment on, he knew this man had reached a height he couldn't reach. Fortunately, this man came with good intentions. Tonari couldn't help but share. Father, Ai-sama said we're all very fragrant apples. Kirito was confused. How did he become an apple? Seeing Kirito's confused expression, Aizen told him what happened. When he heard Tonari crying outside, Kirito crouched down and gently stroked his head. I'm sorry, Tonari. Father neglected your feelings. Li Rin was a little embarrassed. I thought you would blame me, father. I remember you said before that a man shouldn't cry. You still remember? Kirito had a complicated expression on his face. At that time he thought that he wouldn't be able to live much longer. He was worried that Norihito would be overwhelmed by loneliness. That was why he often told Norihito to be strong. Fortunately, Sir Aizen gave me a second chance at life. Thinking of this, Kirito stood up and said gratefully, Aizen-sama, I'm really sorry for troubling you. You don't need to be like this. Aizen smiled. I also like such a smart and excellent child. Hearing Aizen-sama praise him like this, Norihito was both happy and shy. Right, Lord Aizen? Kirito suddenly started coughing like crazy. Aizen quickly took out a small piece of dark green ore and crushed it. He then channeled a large amount of life force into Kirito's body. Only then did his coughing abate a little. Father, are you all right? Li Rin asked worriedly. It's fine. I'm used to it. Kirito shook his head. Is there no cure? Aizen frowned. It's because of my constitution. It can't be changed. Kirito smiled bitterly. In fact, there was something he didn't say out loud. This should be the punishment ancestor Himura gave us for misinterpreting the will of the heavens. Their branch family was originally a branch family. They relied on the Tensigen to create the Byakugan to destroy the main family. They thought it was a victory, but it turned out to be the beginning of a nightmare. Those ancestors who dug out their own Byakugan couldn't give birth to any more Byakugans. It was as if they were cursed. Their branch was born without eyes. Their bodies also suffered from all kinds of strange diseases. In the end, the once prosperous branch family was reduced to only the two of them. Fortunately, Norihito's body is fine. Not only is there no problem, but he also inherited Himura's powerful constitution. Kirito looked at Aizen with longing eyes. It must be because Sir Aizen's arrival brought us new ideas. We were saved and forgiven by Himura. Even if it's for Norihito as his father, I must show enough value. I can't let Norihito be abandoned by Sir Aizen. Thinking of this, Kirito pretended to be strong. Sir Aizen, you don't have to worry about me. This small problem won't affect me. Aizen pondered. I've heard about your clan's experience. Since the cause is the loss of the Byakugan, why don't you try to regain the Byakugan? Regain the Byakugan. Yes, why didn't I think about it? Kirito shouted in surprise. Aizen smiled slightly. He could understand the thoughts of Kirito and his ancestors. In his memory of his previous life, the War of the Shinobi World was jokingly called the Five-Village War, but there were different ideas. But from the beginning to the end, there was only one Otsutsuki clan on the moon. Such a closed environment caused the clan to worship their ancestors fanatically. Even Norihito's reason for wanting to destroy the world in the original story was to follow Himura's will. He didn't have his own understanding and thoughts. Of course, when the branch family was cursed, they didn't look for a solution at all. Instead, they obediently accepted their fate and accepted Himura's punishment. Norihito cheered, Great Father, your illness can finally be cured. Why does this sound strange? Kirito shook his head and put the strange thoughts behind him. Not necessarily, it's just a possibility. And if we regain the Byakugan, do we have to go to the lower world and borrow a pair of Byakugan from our distant relatives? It's not that troublesome. Aizen smiled. Didn't you say that the Grand Tensigen worshipped in the lookout was formed by the fusion of countless Byakugan? Kirito asked in horror, Do you want to separate several pairs of Byakugan from the Grand Tensigen? Aizen nodded. Yes, that's what I'm thinking. Kirito hesitated. But wouldn't this be disrespectful to Himura? Aizen smiled. With your ancestor's tolerance, would he care about such a trivial matter? Killing each other for power is the greatest disrespect to him, isn't it? And with Norihito's talent? Only by separating the purest Byakugan from the Grand Tensigen will he not be a burden. Hearing that it would help Norihito, Kirito finally made up his mind. Okay, let's go to the lookout. Chapter 367. In the artificial sun there are floating islands everywhere. Himura's lookout is located on one of the spherical floating islands. Under Kirito's guidance, the three of them successfully ascended the shrine. Our clan has 2 shrines. One is on the surface. It enshrines the Tensigen that was born after our ancestors fused with the Byakugan. However, the Tensigen has lost its activity. It is a place for the servants to worship. Kirito explained as they walked. The shrine we are entering now is the one that truly belongs to Himura. It is a place where the Tensigen is enshrined. Usually, it is sealed with a barrier that interferes with perception. Only the truly noble are qualified to worship it. Kirito, I'm sorry, but I have something to ask. Looking at the walls that seem to be filled with magma and the bloody bubbles floating in the air, Aizen asked curiously. Why is Himura's shrine like this? When he saw it in his previous life he didn't feel it, but now that he was walking in it, he felt strange. Especially the ground under his feet, it felt like he was stepping on a carpet made of flesh and blood. It was soft and a little disgusting. I'm not very sure. I don't dare to guess about our ancestors, but... Kirito smiled and said. When I entered the shrine when I was a child, I heard the elders of the clan say that this passage is like a blood vessel. Aizen nodded slightly. Indeed, this was the same as his first impression. The shape of this spherical temple is very much like an eye. With the addition of these blood vessels as well as the Grand Tensigen in the central area as the eye, the overall image is exactly the appearance of a giant eye. If I'm not wrong, Otsutsuki Himura? No, let's not rush to a conclusion. Once we see the Tensigen we will know the answer. With this thought, Aizen followed Kirito into the center area. There were light golden orbits around it, just like celestial bodies orbiting the sun. In the center of these orbits, there was a giant Tensigen emitting endless light and heat. Although Kirito Shuren couldn't see it, what he perceived with his mind's eye was enough to make him feel proud. This was the treasure of the Otsutsuki clan, the most powerful force of the Otsutsuki clan. But Aizen didn't share their sentiments. Looking at the center of the Grand Tensigen shining like a golden sun, his pupils suddenly shrank. Under the surface of this sunlight, there was an incomparably terrifying evil. As Kirito Tonari was much weaker than him, he could only see the surface. However, he could see countless living eyes moving around and looking at them. Those supercilious eyes were alive. Think about it, a giant eyeball monster, made up of countless eyes. Those eyes could move and even look at you at the same time. What a strange scene it would be. If someone with trypophobia saw this, they would most likely faint from fright. Fortunately, the eyeballs seemed to have sensed Kirito Naruto's bloodline. The white eyes only glanced at them for a moment before returning to their chaotic state. As expected, this is demon power. Aizen sighed. Wang Liang had once told him that the power of demons was the power of their physical bodies. Every part of their bodies contained their own will. Just like how Lingu took a piece of meat and made it into a ring for Aizen, Wang Liang's body could split into smaller Wang Liang after being cut off. Every part of a demon's body contained their own will. The eyeballs in front of them were the same. The white eyes also contained their own will, but the difference was that the will didn't belong to Himura, it belonged to the original owner of the white eyes. The Tensigen that was born after the fusion of the Byakugan turned into a stone pupil after a long time, but the Grand Tensigen that has experienced far longer than it has been able to remain active. I originally thought that it was Himura's power that kept the Grand Tensigen active. But now it seems that Himura is using his Tensigen as the core, trying to merge the strongest demon that can contain countless eyes. It's because this eyeball monster is alive that it can remain active after such a long time. The spherical shell is its cornea, the bloody passage is its blood vessels, and the huge Tensigen is its eyeball, and we are now inside its body. Thinking of this, Aizen's thoughts diverged. In the original story, after the Grand Tensigen was destroyed, these scattered white eyes attached to Tonari, trying to pollute him into a new demon. It's clear that these white eyes do have their own will. In fact, Kirito and the other clansmen were born without eyes. Maybe it's also its doing. It was worried that the new Tensigen created by Otsutsuki's fusion with the Byakugan would replace its position and steal its power, so it secretly influenced their bloodline. But the question is, how did Naruto break it in the future? If the Grand Tensigen has its own will, it's impossible for Naruto to do it with his strength at that time. Anyway, I have to be careful when I separate them. When Aizen was lost in thought, Kirito proudly introduced. Aizen-sama, this is the most precious power that Himura left to us. This power is strong enough to move the moon. Aizen sighed. Moving the moon, that's amazing. Of course, because our ancestor was the god who saved the world. Kirito proudly declared, but immediately felt a little disappointed. It's a pity that we can't inherit the glory of our ancestors. Instead, we are reduced to the point of disappearing from this world. Aizen laughed. But I believe that Tonari will become the one who rewrites Otsutsuki's fate. Kirito nodded heavily. I believe so too. Tonari was embarrassed by the praise and shyly changed the topic. Aizen-sama, can you treat my father now? Aizen said with a gentle smile. Wait a moment, Let me carefully observe this Grand Tensigen. It won't be easy to separate the Byakugan from it. Kirito nodded repeatedly. Aizen-sama, please observe first. I'm not in a hurry. Aizen nodded slightly and continued to observe the Grand Tensigen. Did Himura learn about Otsutsuki's family from Kagaya? That's why he came up with the idea of creating the strongest demon after settling on the moon. But it's really interesting. The mother is a god, the elder brother is a sage, and the younger brother is a demon. Except for Kurohei, who only wants to split the moon to save his mother, this family really walked the path of this world to the extreme. Obviously, all three of them realized that it was impossible to defeat the Otsutsuki clan, who had been on this path for thousands of years, with the power of Otsutsuki alone. To deal with the threat from the depths of the stars, they must find a way to open a new path. So, is this Grand Tensigen a backup plan for Himura? Aizen was a little troubled. Chapter 368. Just like the ghetto demon statue, because he suspected that there was a back door left by the six paths, he always stayed away from it. Even if there was a chance to take it, he would never force it. However, there was still a difference between the two. Speaking of fear, he was far less afraid of Himura than Hagoromo. Looking at their performance, Hagoromo could easily give Naruto and Sasuke 2 parts of chakra after death. But Himura needed Naruto's power to deal with the threat of destroying the world. In Aizen's view, the two of them were like Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. They seemed to be on the same level, but in fact the gap between them was quite big. Naruto broke the Grand Tensigen. It's not too much for me to take a few pairs of your Byakugan, right? Aizen said with a dignified expression. Atsuki-san, I didn't mean to offend you, but I really don't want to see the clan that once saved the world disappear like this. If you still have a soul, please let me successfully take back the Byakugan. This wasn't from the heart, but respect for the old man who once saved the world. His organization was full of old, weak, sick, and disabled people. He was a good person who respected the old and loved the young. His organization was also a welfare organization that took in the weak. Aizen-sama, an outsider's chakra can't touch the Grand Tensigen, please use my chakra. Kirito reminded him. Then I'll trouble you. Aizen put his right hand on Kirito's shoulder, then condensed the chakra hand and slowly approached the center area. Although he couldn't see, Tonari's mind's eye was carefully perceiving everything around him. Perceiving the chakra hand approaching the Grand Tensigen, he was so nervous that his breathing became rapid. You must succeed. As he prayed in a low voice, the chakra hand merged into the Grand Tensigen, fumbled for a moment, and then grabbed a few pairs of Byakugan that were emitting light and heat. Success! Tonari cheered, but at this moment the Grand Tensigen, which had been calm, suddenly became violent. The materialized chakra surged like the sea, and the surrounding space was faintly distorted. The ground under their feet also seemed to have a life of its own, letting out ear-piercing screams. We're in trouble. Big Eyeball went berserk. Aizen whispered. He wasn't worried about himself. Not to mention that his life force level was extremely high, even the composition of his body was chakra. To be more precise, he was nothing more than a body of energy. There was no concept of him being killed. What was truly troublesome was rescuing Kirito and Tonari safely. Although this part of space has become very chaotic, fortunately, this body of mine has part of the characteristics of the dragon bloodline chakra. It is abnormally compatible with space-time. I should be able to forcefully travel through space. However, just as he was about to use the Flying Thunder God technique to escape, he noticed that the violent movements of the huge eyeball had suddenly calmed down. Everything returned to tranquility. If not for the fact that the Byakugan in his hand was still emitting light and heat, he would have thought that the riot was just an illusion. As expected of Aizen-sama, even the violent movements of the Grand Tensigen were calmed down. Kirito breathed a sigh of relief. Although he couldn't see, he could feel the thrill just now. Aizen-sama is too powerful. Tonari raised his small hand and cheered. However, Aizen looked ahead in surprise. He clearly knew that the calmness of the huge eyeball had nothing to do with him. It was as if there was an invisible hand helping him in the dark. Is it Otsutsuki Himura? Aizen couldn't help but guess. In the original manga, Naruto was able to break the Grand Tensigen because Himura secretly helped him. But why would Himura do this? Even if he wanted to stop Tonari from destroying the world, with his authority over the Grand Tensigen, he should be able to remove Tonari's control over the Grand Tensigen, right? Or is he so weak that the Grand Tensigen can counteract him? Aizen thought back to the original manga, where Himura said before his death, if the world created by my brother deviates from the right path, I will destroy that world. Aizen guessed that Himura was most likely contaminated like Kagaya. How can a decent person say something like destroying the world if they go the wrong way? Shouldn't they be corrected? Obviously, at that time, Himura was already contaminated like his mother, but one was eroded by the mind, and the other was contaminated by the will of the body. After Himura's death, his remaining chakra gradually recovered from the contaminated state, but because of this, his strength was greatly reduced, and he could only slightly affect the authority of the Grand Tensigen. Aizen guessed, but he shook his head. But it's still not right. If the Grand Tensigen was really a weapon left by Himura to fight against the Otsutsuki clan, then he didn't need to make such a decision. As long as he summoned the will of the six paths, with the strength of the six paths, it should be easy to solve his problem unless there is an existence in the shinobi world that even the six paths is afraid of. Thinking of this, Aizen's eyes became brighter and brighter. He deliberately divided the power of the six paths to Naruto and Sasuke, and didn't even participate in the final battle. Maybe it was to show weakness to the enemy. The reason why Himura didn't summon the six paths, even if it would destroy his 1,000 years of work, is probably to create the illusion that the six paths is indeed weak. Aizen's speculation wasn't without reason. Although he didn't pay much attention to the story of the manga, he still heard about the new Otsutsuki in the final movie. Could it be that the Otsutsuki clan has been lurking in this world since the end of the Fourth Shinobi World War? Thinking of this, Aizen's heart became heavy. I thought that I would have at least 30 years, but now it seems that half of that time is not bad. My strength is still improving too slowly. Aizen-sama, let's go out quickly. Kirito said with a worried look. I don't know if the Grand Tensigen will riot a second time. Since we have got what we want, there is no point in staying here. Let's go. Aizen took a deep look at the giant Tensigen and turned around decisively. After the three left, the lookout temple became quiet again. Suddenly, an old figure with a long horn on his head walked out of the giant Tensigen. Looking at the direction where Aizen and the others left, the old man muttered to himself. This man seems to have the aura of the Jubi and natural chakra. Did my brother notice that something was wrong with me and send him to save me? Muttering to himself, the old figure shook his head. It's a pity that I can't contact my brother yet. The enemy may be watching us in the dark. I have waited for 1,000 years, I can't let anything go wrong. Thinking of this, the old figure returned to the Grand Tensigen. Chapter 369. They left the temple and returned to the castle. Kirito was patient, but Tonari couldn't wait any longer. Aizen-sama, are we going to start the treatment? Aizen smiled and said, let's start now. Although Kirito was calm, he was excited. Even if the disease couldn't be cured, it was good to see the world clearly. Aizen first erased the consciousness of the Byakugan, then gently placed the Byakugan into Kirito's eye sockets. For the Ninja World's plug-and-play eye system, there is no need for too complicated surgery to continue to use the installed eye. Kirito murmured and gently opened his eyes. So, this is what the world looks like? Then he looked down at Tonari as if he wanted to engrave Tonari's appearance in his heart. Tonari couldn't help but ask, Father, is your disease cured? My illness? Kirito checked his body and sighed. It's still not working. Huh. Hearing his father's sigh, Tonari's mood suddenly dropped, but when he heard his father's sigh, his hope was reignited. Father, what's wrong? These Byakugan seem to be different from the Byakugan recorded by our ancestors. They just absorbed a ray of light. Kirito was shocked. Moreover, these Byakugan seem to have some kind of reaction with the chakra in my body. It's transforming and the disease's spread has been stopped. Aizen wasn't surprised by this. In his previous life, it was mentioned that after the Great Tensigen was broken, the Byakugan could absorb sunlight. Even the pattern in Tonari's Tensigen eyes was the shape of the sun. Wow, that's great. Tonari didn't care about the transformation, he was happy to hear that the disease's spread was stopped. Kirito's transformation didn't last long and it soon stopped. When he opened his eyes again, they were brighter than before. So, it's still the Byakugan? Aizen wasn't surprised by this result. Even if he deliberately chose the purest Byakugan, it was almost impossible for Kirito's bloodline to transform into the Tensigen. Kirito didn't even think about the Tensigen. After perceiving the changes in his eyes, he said excitedly, My eyes. Yes, this must be the Scorching Sun Byakugan recorded in the ancestral records. White Sun Byakugan. Aizen was surprised. Kirito nodded heavily. It's the evolved form of the ordinary Byakugan. It must be the power of the Grand Tensigen that transformed the original Byakugan. Is it on the same level as the Manjikyu Sharingan? Aizen asked with great interest. Kirito, what abilities do your eyes have now? Kirito explained. My left eye's ability is Heavenly Venerate. Within 1 minute after I use it, all damage I receive will be nullified. The cooldown is 10 minutes. If I can absorb a large amount of sunlight in a short period of time, the cooldown can be shortened. 1 minute of invincibility? Aizen raised his eyebrows. Just looking at the description, it might be similar to Izanagi's 3-Tomo Sharingan. But Izanagi's Sharingan is too expensive. Even if he kills all the Uchiha members, the Sharingan he gets will only last for a few minutes. It's far inferior to Heavenly Venerate, which can be used repeatedly and can even reduce the cooldown. Kirito continued. As for the right eye, its ability is called Calamity Sun God, which can bring bad luck to the target. If both eyes are opened at the same time, it will summon Susanu's male life. Kirito himself wasn't satisfied with the first two abilities. One was specialized in taking hits and the other one was a god. They didn't have a strong offensive ability. Fortunately, Susanu seemed to be very strong. But for Aizen, he didn't care about Susanu at all. In fact, he was only asking for fun from the beginning. With his current strength, whether it's Manjikyu Sharingan or White Sun Byakugan, this level of ability is of little help to him. If it's Rinnegan or Tensigen, it would be more useful. However, Kirito's eyes gave him a pleasant surprise. The Calamity Sun God can bring bad luck to the target. This ability is something he has never heard of in the history of the shinobi world. Compared to powerful attacks, Aizen is more optimistic about this auxiliary ability. If he can use it well, maybe it can play a certain role in a battle at his level. Thinking of this, Aizen asked, Kirito, is there any limit to the Calamity Sun God? Kirito didn't expect Aizen to ask about the least optimistic ability, so he was stunned for a moment and hurriedly said, after using the Calamity Sun God, a gray light will shoot out from the right eye. It will only take effect if the target is hit. The duration is 1 hour and it can only be used again after a month. Aizen nodded slightly and thought to himself, if it's only effective if the target is hit, then it's just right to use the first ability. I'll use invincibility to deceive the target, and then use the Calamity Sun God. After pondering for a moment, Aizen looked at Tonari with a smile. Tonari, are you anxious? Tonari nodded vigorously. I really want to see Father and Aizen-sama with my own eyes. Don't worry, you will see it soon. Aizen took out the purest Byakugan and put it in Tonari's eye sockets, then looked at Tonari's reaction. In the original timeline, Tonari used Hanabi's Byakugan and his own chakra to awaken the Tensigen. He deliberately chose the purest Byakugan in the past 1,000 years, so there's no reason it's not as good as Hanabi's. Under Aizen's expectant gaze and Kirito's nervous gaze, Tonari's Byakugan began to glow and change into another form. This is the Tensigen. Kirito shouted in disbelief. How is this possible? He awakened the Tensigen on his own, just like Himura's ancestor. The ancestor of the branch family fused with the Byakugan of the clan to evolve into the Tensigen. This chakra. Aizen was a little shocked. Is it the same level as Himura? Other than the fact that he doesn't have eyes, his body can be said to be pure wood. Uchiha Madara was strong and he obtained Hashirama's cells. Finally, he awakened the Rinnegan in his later years. This is the best result that Black Zetsu got in the past 1,000 years. But Tonari transformed immediately after obtaining the Byakugan's eyes. If Black Zetsu knew about this talent, he would cry with envy. While both of them were shocked, Tonari suddenly covered his eyes and screamed, "Ah! It hurts." The transformation of the Tensigen requires too much chakra, and your body can't support it? Aizen understood and placed a seal on Tonari's body as quickly as possible. The pressure from the transformation of the Tensigen disappeared, and Tonari's body softened and fell into Kirito's arms. Chapter 370. Kirito quickly sensed Tonari's physical condition and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he just fainted due to the lack of chakra. Of course, it was also thanks to Aizen's timely seal. Otherwise, it is not impossible for his chakra to be sucked dry and die. Kirito was relieved but also scared. I didn't expect this to happen when I just put Tonari's eyes on him. This was a problem that a mediocre person like him could never understand. Tonari's Byakugan began to transform into the Tensigen. This had never happened in the thousands of years of their clan's history. Aizen-sama, should I dig out Tonari's eyes? Kirito asked worriedly. Don't worry. Aizen said. I have sealed Tonari's eyes. Now he doesn't even have the most basic Byakugan ability. After that, Aizen added. Of course, he can still see the world as normal. Phew, that's good. Kirito was relieved. He didn't care whether Tonari had the Tensigen or not. As long as Tonari was safe and could see the world as a normal person, it was good enough. In addition, I also left a back door for the seal. Tonari's chakra will be used to nourish his eyes. Aizen pondered. As long as Tonari practices seriously, he should be able to unlock the seal in 7 or 8 years. Tonari is only 5 years old, that is to say. Kirito was shocked. He can awaken the Tensigen by the age of 13? Yes. Aizen nodded. This result shocked even him. A 13-year-old Suda-Rikudo level, after absorbing the power of the Grand Tensigen, he can even reach the real Rikudo level. This kind of talent is indeed enviable. In his opinion, the Tensigen should be on the same level as the Rinnegan. The reason why Tonari could be so strong in the original timeline was mostly because he absorbed the power of the Grand Tensigen. If I'm not wrong, Tonari should be the same as Naruto and Sasuke. But Himura, who chose him, was much worse than the Rikudo. He didn't have time to care about Tonari's growth. Aizen collected his thoughts and asked. By the way, Kirito, I think Sento is lonely on the moon. Do you mind if I bring some children to play with him? Of course I don't mind. I'm more than happy. Kirito sighed. Even if it's not because of the eyes, the moon's uniqueness means that Tensei can't play as much as other children. If the moon's secret is exposed, it will bring disaster to the world. But Sir Aizen, the people you brought can be trusted. Then I'll have to bother you. I also want to ask you for a favor, Aizen said. Yes, sir. If it weren't for you, I would have died 2 years ago. Kirito said resolutely. After some time, I want to borrow your body. After leaving the moon, Aizen went to Sasori's base. Compared to 3 years ago, this base had a strange aura. Other than the normal humans controlled by the subconscious brain, there were also mannequins that bowed to him respectfully. As expected of you. You really developed these humanoids. Aizen praised as they walked deeper into the base. He got these mannequins from Kirito 2 years ago. It took me 2 years to develop them. It's nothing to be proud of. Sasori said calmly. It's not the same. Aizen shook his head. Those mannequins were given life by a special ability. You gave them intelligence through pure puppetry. In terms of puppetry, you're much better than the person who created them. What's the use of being better? That person can use his own ability to easily do things that puppetry can't. Sasori said calmly. I only gave them low-level intelligence. They're much worse than the living mannequins. Okay, let's not talk about this. Aizen shook his head. I came here today to ask if the pacifists I asked for have been modified? You call those weapons pacifists? Is that your bad taste? Sasori shrugged and turned to walk inside. Come with me. Following behind Scorpion, the two of them quickly walked into a laboratory. There were 4 test beds with a mannequin lying on each bed. These 4 puppets are the strongest among the combat puppets you found for me, and after my transformation, their strength may be above the incomplete 3rd-generation Wind Shadow puppet. After saying that, Scorpion added, however, I have to remind you that although puppets with intelligence are more convenient than puppets controlled by traditional puppeteers, their intelligence can hardly support high-level battles. In terms of strength, they are not as good as puppets controlled by puppeteers. Don't worry, I'm prepared for this. Aizen took out the Shinigami's mask and summoned the souls of the 4. Phew, I'm suffocating. Ha, I can finally come out for some fresh air. We can't help it. We're ghosts. If we stay outside for too long, our souls will be sucked away by the underworld. This is. Looking at the 4 ghostly figures, Scorpion asked in astonishment. At this time, the Whirlpool F4 looked at Sasori. Hello, wait. Red hair. Hurry up and check his physique. Why is he a puppet? No, that's not right. His chest is flesh. He can create chakra with such a small amount of flesh. It seems he's really. Sasori hated being judged by others. Since these 4 were summoned by Aizen, he suppressed his anger and asked, Who are you? Masaki said amiably. Don't be polite. Just call us ancestor. Rip. Sasori's face was cold. He chopped with his hand and Masaki's soul scattered like smoke. If you don't want to call me ancestor, you can call me grandpa. This time, Sasori's response was more direct. He took out a scroll and summoned hundreds of puppets. Amazing. The 4 demons were shocked. Even if they were alive, they wouldn't be a match for this young man. All of you calm down. Aizen released his soul pressure, and it seemed to freeze the space around him. The restless crowd quieted down. As expected of Aizen-sama. He's much stronger than before. The Whirlpool F4 sighed. They were only spirits left. Their soul cultivation was far inferior to a living person's. So strong. Just his soul alone is strong to this extent. Sasori was shocked. Sure enough, he didn't even use half of his strength when we fought 3 years ago. Chapter 371. After both sides. Sasori calmed down. Aizen said, "We are all members of the Akatsuki. Let's not hurt each other." The Akatsuki. Sasori looked at the four and knew there was no such person in the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki you want me to join? They don't look very smart. Hearing this, Masaki and the others were very dissatisfied. Child, how can you talk like that? How can you talk about your ancestors like that? Aizen coughed. Most of the Uzumaki are straightforward. Uzumaki? Sasori looked at the four and asked, "Is that the family that was destroyed because of the sealing technique?" Shinichi let out a long sigh. "Yes, we are the same as you, we are all from the Uzumaki clan." Sasori said coldly, "Don't put me in a relationship with you." "Excuse me, but is your surname Uzumaki? Is there an Uzumaki among your elders?" Masaki asked. Sasori replied indifferently, "No. Idiot, the Uzumaki family was destroyed. Who would dare to use their real name? You should ask this question." Chinshua scolded him and then chuckled. "Is there anyone in your immediate family who has red hair like you?" "Red hair?" Sasori frowned. "My father has red hair." Thousand Snow was overjoyed. "Yes, you must be from the Uzumaki family. Is there anyone with red hair from your family?" Sasori sneered. "Then I can recommend one to you. Sand Crypsis' Kazekage and his youngest son also have red hair." "It's not the same." Thousand Snow said, "You only have a piece of your body left, but you can create a large amount of chakra and even transform yourself into a puppet without dying. This is a sign of your strong vitality." "Enough." Sasori interrupted. "I have abandoned the part of me that belongs to the human race. Whether you are an Uzumaki or not, it has nothing to do with me." Seeing that they still wanted to say something, Aizen said, "Since Sasori doesn't want to say this, you don't need to force him. Moreover, I didn't summon you to recognize your relatives." Hearing Aizen speak, the four quickly quieted down. Although Lord Aizen was usually easy to talk to, he was very scary when he was serious. Especially for these rootless ghosts, the pressure they had to bear in front of him was too great. Seeing everyone calm down, Aizen pointed to the puppets beside him and said, "These puppets were prepared for you. Go in and take a look." "Puppet? Is it useful for us to go in?" "You can't control it at all, right?" Although they were confused, they didn't dare question Aizen's orders. They each entered a puppet. In the next moment, those puppets sat up from their beds and exclaimed in disbelief. "It's actually a perfect fit? What's going on? It's just like a real human body. No, this is even more suitable for us than a human body. Indeed, I don't feel any repulsion. Because it is a puppet, naturally there is no rejection between the soul and the body." What's more ingenious is that the puppet given life by the Grand Tensigen is essentially a creature with only consciousness and no soul. Why couldn't the human puppets made by Scorpion work? The reason is that they are inanimate objects just like a wall. The soul can only pass through the wall, but it can't merge with the wall. Because the soul itself doesn't have a physical body, only real life is the most suitable vessel for the soul. It's amazing, I didn't expect that we would have a body one day. It can give life to puppets. How terrifying is that? The four were shocked, but they were even more in awe of the mysterious Lord Aizen. Looking at the four people who were surprised and cheering, Sasori's originally calm heart suddenly became turbulent. Their souls can stay in the main world forever? Aizen nodded gently. In theory, yes. Sasori took a deep breath. Woodleaf Second Naruto once developed a forbidden technique called Edo Tensei. It can summon the souls of the dead back to the main world and give them an indestructible body. However, this technique has a drawback. That is, the sacrificial offering is alive before the spell and can be used as a container for the soul. However, when the soul is summoned, the sacrificial offering as the container will also die. It is just that a special spell is used to pin the soul and the corpse together. Not long after, the summoned soul will return to the underworld. Aizen laughed. You are a Sand Crypsis ninja, yet you know so much about Woodleaf's forbidden technique. It seems that you have thought about this before. Sasori didn't argue but continued. Only the living can be the vessel of the soul. Although Nidaime Hokage has developed the Edo Tensei which uses living people as sacrifices, the limitations are too great. It can be used as a war consumable, but it's impossible to resurrect the dead permanently. But today after seeing them I have a new idea. What if we use these puppets, which are between living beings and puppets, as sacrifices? In theory it is possible. What? Is it really possible? Seeing Sasori's indifferent eyes become hot, Aizen laughed. I have some understanding of the Edo Tensei. The summoned soul can't stay in the main world for long, mainly because the body used as a vessel dies. But these puppets are endowed with life, so even if a soul is inserted into them, they won't die. It's really possible. Sasori muttered in shock. Not to mention him, even Uzumaki F4's eyes were burning. Doesn't that mean that we can resurrect the dead at will? Can our Uzumaki clan be revived in this way? Revive? Don't be so whimsical. Aizen shook his head and said, first of all, this isn't a resurrection. It's just a permanent residence in the main world in the form of a soul. It's impossible to reproduce. Also, do you think that the underworld is unguarded? Using this method to steal souls, it's fine if there aren't many people, but if they break through a certain limit, even I will be in trouble. Hearing Aizen's explanation, the four looked embarrassed. So that's how it is. I knew that resurrection wouldn't be so easy. Is the underworld really guarded by a Grim Reaper? Wait, didn't our corpse demon seal intercept a lot of souls from the underworld? Hiss, the underworld's guardian isn't waiting for us, is it? Aizen thought to himself, now you're scared? What were you doing earlier? Although it was a groundless guess, he had always suspected that the destruction of the Uzumaki clan was driven by the Six Paths. The reason was that their corpse demon seal touched the Six Paths cheese. Chapter 372. In his opinion, the underworld is most likely a private land of the Six Paths. In a period of 20 years, there should be about 15 to 20 Kage-level ninjas. In 1,000 years, there should be at least 700 to 800 ninjas. In fact, there should be more than that. Isn't an army composed of such ninjas more reliable than Kagaya's White Zetsu army? At least from the memory of his previous life, ordinary Kage-level ninjas can barely participate in top-level battles, and forming an army to attack together is even more useful. He even suspected that Otsutsuki Himura quietly used the Grand Tensigen to make puppets on the moon. Maybe it was to collect the souls of these powerful beings for the Rikudo. In this sort of situation, borrowing souls like Edo reincarnation wasn't a problem, but directly intercepting souls like Corpse Ghost Fongjin was far too vile. What's worse is that the Edo Tensei is the trump card of the Uzumaki clan. It can be said that it specializes in killing strong ninjas. If it was one or two Shinigami, the Six Paths might be able to bear it, but the Uzumaki clan actually made 27 Shinigami. This is not only not giving the Six Paths face, it's simply pushing him to the ground. If it was me, I wouldn't be able to bear it either. Aizen thought. This is not a malicious speculation. In his opinion, the mainstream of this world is to sacrifice small families for the greater good. From Itachi's extermination of the Uzumaki clan, to Hashirama's killing of Madara, to Hagoromo's sealing of Kagaya, as long as it's for the sake of world peace, personal sacrifice is nothing. Masaki asked with some worry, Aizen-sama, will you be punished for forcibly summoning souls? Don't worry, Sasori's parents are just ordinary jonins, they don't constitute a problem. Aizen chuckled softly, besides, I didn't say I would do it myself. Not to mention that he guessed from the Grand Tensigen that the Six Paths might have some scruples. Even if he didn't, the Six Paths wouldn't trouble an innocent person like him, right? Masaki was startled. That's true. Aizen laughed. After all, I didn't say I could use the Edo Tensei. I will send the puppet army to attack Woodleaf. Sasori suddenly said, then take advantage of the chaos to seize the Scroll of Seals. Seize the Scroll of Seals? That's impossible. Aizen shook his head slightly. Shimizu Garashi must have left the Flying Thunder God Jutsu in Woodleaf. As long as Woodleaf urgently summons him back, can your puppet army last more than 3 seconds? Sasori of the of Kages of the Kage of the Sussies to deal. Scorpion's eyes instantly lit up. Ambush Naruto on his way to the Five Shadows conference, capture Naruto alive, and have Woodleaf exchange the Book of Seals for hostages. Aizen shook his finger. With Naruto's popularity in Woodleaf, there will be rumors that he would rather die than submit. In the end we will kill him. Scorpion was dumbfounded and asked, Is that even possible? If you use Naruto to exchange for something else, they might just accept it. But with the importance of the Book of Seals and Naruto's popularity, it's unlikely they'll agree. Aizen shrugged. Scorpion hesitated. What if we release him and let him come back with the Book of Seals to redeem his subordinates? Aizen smiled. Then you probably won't be able to wait for him to return. Scorpion's eyes widened. He didn't know much about the Dark Shinobi, but as Naruto, how could his character be so bad? However, he didn't think that Aizen would lie to him about this matter, so he couldn't help but feel depressed. Then what should we do? Oh, let's make it so that Woodleaf can't deny it. Aizen smiled. For example, capture Naruto alive in front of the other 4 villages. In front of the other 4 villages? Scorpion was shocked. You mean during the 5 Shadows conference? Aizen smiled. What? You don't dare? Even if I bring all my puppets, it's impossible. Scorpion shook his head and said. Although he was confident, he wasn't arrogant. If it's just Naruto, he might be able to do it. But in front of the other 4 Kages and even the Kage guards of the 5 great ninja villages, it's simply courting death. Scorpion frowned. It's possible to persuade the Akatsuki to help, but they're currently in a dormant period. The possibility of persuading them to help me is too low. That's not necessarily true. Aizen smiled. The goal of the 5 Shadows Conference is the Akatsuki, which means that the organization has already been noticed. Moreover, isn't the organization's main goal the bijou? As long as this goal isn't discovered, we can use some seemingly reasonable reasons to divert their attention. Seemingly reasonable reasons. Scorpion pondered. The truest lie is the truth. Why don't we use the idea of resurrecting the dead and redeeming the tragedy? On the one hand, this idea fits well with the secret organization, and it's not so easy to be suspected. On the other hand, maybe there are people in the organization who have the same needs as me? The reason is up to you, but I can lend you the 4 of them. Aizen smiled and pointed to the 4 who were watching the show. The 4 looked at each other with surprise in their hearts. Us. It's good to be able to move our hands and feet. They didn't dislike this idea. After all, Scorpion was one of them. In addition, these puppets have life, and they can be used as Edo Tensei sacrifices. You can also tell them. Aizen said calmly, as long as I'm not involved in this matter. What? You actually? Scorpion hadn't recovered from the shock of suddenly receiving 4 powerful helpers, but Aizen's words shocked him once more. What was this man trying to do? Seeing Scorpion's shocked expression, Aizen sighed. In order to speed up the process, I have to speed it up. However, I can't be the one to push it forward. Let Black Zetsu complete this mission for me. No matter what he thought, he still said, you should be able to do it, right? With the 4 of them increasing my authority in the Akatsuki, and a suitable reason if I can't do it, then I'll be incompetent. Scorpion was silent for a moment, then he said with determination, in the future, no matter what you ask me to do, I will not refuse. Stu. Whirlpool F4 hurriedly said. There's no need to be like this. I'm different from ordinary leaders. Aizen smiled. I like to give first and then take later. Only when your dreams have been realized and it's my turn, will you spare no effort to help me? Chapter 373. Hearing Aizen's words, Sasori and the Uzumaki were shocked. Indeed, although it was Aizen-sama who allowed them to join the organization, he didn't get anything from them. Instead, he gave them everything. As he said, he will fulfill the dreams of his subordinates first. This kind of breadth of mind made them respect him from the bottom of their hearts. Scorpion compared the 2 leaders of Atonement and Void in his mind, then shook his head inwardly. Yahiko-sama was too idealistic. He only talked about ideals with them, he never thought about what they wanted. If that was the case, it would be difficult for him to work for the organization. Only Aizen-sama gave him everything he wanted. He could study the art without any worries or burdens, and he could recover from the regrets in his heart. After thinking for a while, Sasori asked. It shouldn't be a problem to persuade the Akatsuki, but there is still a major threat. Aizen asked calmly. You should be talking about the god of shinobi, right? Sasori nodded solemnly. Shimizu Garashi and Danzo don't get along well. It's impossible for him to use the Flying Thunder God on them, but if we don't end the battle quickly, there is still a risk of encountering him. After all, that man is too strong. Even if we send more than half of our people, we can't defeat him, not to mention there are other strong people in the 5 Kages conference. The only one who can compete with him is Nagato. Sasori said and shook his head. But they probably won't let the Rinnegan appear so early, The Uzumaki team also looked at Sasori. In the past 3 years, they had a general understanding of the situation in the ninja world. They naturally knew how strong the man who was called a god before 20 years old was. "Don't worry, I will find someone to help you," Aizen said calmly. "You mean someone who can stop Shimizu Garashi?" Sasori couldn't help but ask. Aizen responded with a smile. "Although there may be some gap in strength, it shouldn't be a problem to help you block Shimizu Garashi for a while." Hearing this, one man and 4 demons were shocked again. Being able to block Shimizu Garashi for a while means that the other party has stepped into the inhuman realm. But such a super strong person was casually summoned by Aizen-sama. How many more terrifying forces were hidden in the hollow they belonged to? "I know what to do." Scorpion nodded and then looked at the few people at the side. "Since everyone is here, let me explain the functions of these puppets to you. First is the outer shell. Whether it is in terms of hardness or resistance to various elements, it is enough to give you a great advantage in terms of defense. In addition, the fingertips of both hands and the throat are equipped with poisonous needles that can be shot at any time. The shoulders can shoot missiles and the eyes can shoot lasers." The 4 old antiques were stupefied. "Missiles? Laser? What is this?" Seeing Aizen's inquisitive look, Sasori explained. "Nagato used his ability to create a doppelganger. The doppelganger carried a lot of high-tech weapons he summoned from another world. When I was repairing his doppelganger, I copied those weapons onto these puppets." "Psychic?" Aizen nodded. His memories from his past life told him that the Shura realm's weapons were connected to another world. But there was a very strange thing. Shura's weapons didn't need to be loaded with ammunition. They seemed to be powered by chakra. If it was another world like my previous life, then his weapons shouldn't have anything to do with chakra. Maybe I should find a chance to ask Nagato. While Aizen was deep in thought, Sasori said to the 4. "As for the power of these weapons, you can go outside and try them out. But remember to remove the traces after you try them out." A man was still a teenager until his death. For these 3 dead people, after obtaining this body, they couldn't control the burning soul in their body. After all, they just died young. It didn't mean they were old. Soon there was an explosion outside and their excited voices were heard. "Amazing, my missiles are super powerful. Is this a laser? It's so cool." Even Qianxue, the only female among the 4 of them, had the urge to join in as well when she saw them having so much fun. While they were shouting, Aizen looked to the side and asked, "Sasori, can the pacifists be loaded with Kekkei Genkai?" Sasori was silent for a moment, then gave an affirmative answer. "Can be done." Then he touched his chest. "Just like my regenerative core, it contains all my life information. As long as it's fired, the puppet that receives it will become a new me. If I can turn the heart of a Kekkei Genkai into a regenerative core and install it on a puppet, the puppet with Kekkei Genkai will be complete." Aizen shook his head. "I want a puppet army with Kekkei Genkai. If I kill 1 person for each puppet, then the efficiency is too low." In his imagination, the pacifist should be loaded with Kekkei Genkai. It didn't matter if the firing speed was slower as long as the power was retained. His future enemies would at least have the Rinnegan. Enemies at this level can indeed absorb chakra, but they can't use it actively. If they don't use it actively, they will be injured. However, Rikudo-level creatures are beyond the scope of ordinary life. They don't have the weakness of ordinary ninjas. Just like Madara, he can withstand Guy's Hashiman without dying. Therefore, ordinary attacks can't pose a threat to them. In this case, the best choice is naturally Kekkei Genkai. Anyway, no matter what kind of Kekkei Genkai he uses, the hit rate is very low against Rikudo-level enemies. Even if he manages to hit them, it's just a scratch. Therefore, it's better to sacrifice the hit rate and use Kekkei Genkai to threaten the enemy. Even if he can't hit them, there are so many puppets that can use Kekkei Genkai. Hearing Aizen's request, Sasori frowned. In theory it can be done, but it requires a deep understanding of cloning and Kekkei Genkai. "Cloning and Kekkei Genkai?" Aizen said calmly. "I will find talents in these 2 fields for you. Any other questions?" "No." Sasori couldn't help but sigh. As expected of Aizen-sama. Not only can he stop Shimizu Garashi, but he can also provide top researchers. The Hollow is far more mysterious and powerful than he thought. Chapter 374. Woodleaf Hyuga Mansion. What? Yunin has withdrawn the ultimatum? The Hyuga people were surprised and happy. "Garashi asked me to inform you in advance," Mizuki said calmly. "Although Yunin's notice hasn't arrived yet, it should be soon." "Great. The Hyuga people cheered. Although they could guess that after Garashi came forward, as long as Yunin's people weren't stupid, they wouldn't insist. But they still didn't expect that Yunin would be so cowardly. In any case, Yunin is one of the 5 great ninja villages, and even has the power to suppress Wood Leaf to become the strongest ninja village. They didn't expect that Yunin would give in so easily. Thinking of this, Hisashi sighed. As expected of Garashi-sama, he actually suppressed Yunin with his own power. Niji was so excited that his little face was flushed, waving his little hands and worshipping. Compared with the trash Naruto who was suppressed by Yunin, Garashi-sama is the one who should be the real Naruto. Mizuki's eyes were full of praise. Little guy, your path is wide. Hayashi said gratefully, Mizuki Jounin, thank you so much. Mizuki shook his head. The person you should thank is Garashi. Yes, Garashi-sama has helped us so much. Even when he was outside, he never forgot about us. After leaving the Hyuga mansion, Asuma put his hands behind his head and whistled discontentedly. Why did Garashi only send you a message and didn't tell us? Mizuki glanced at him. You don't know Sage Mode, so it's difficult for Garashi to communicate with you remotely. Sage Mode has such a function? Guy exclaimed on the side. Of course it's true. Mizuki calmly covered up the fact that he and Garashi communicated through dreams. Speaking of long-distance communication, Garashi's dream world should be updated to cross-server communication soon. Red Eyes looked forward to it. Yeah, we might be able to meet more often in the future. Mute said expectantly. As they chatted along the way, they suddenly heard a group of children discussing excitedly. Have you heard? The crisis of the Hyuga clan has been resolved. Crisis? Are you talking about Yunin Village's ultimatum? That's it. The people of Yunin Village did bad things and wanted to threaten us. Naruto dared not intervene. In the end, it was Senior Garashi who stepped in and made Yunin admit defeat. Senior is super powerful. I want to be like Senior in the future. Not only the children but the adults on the street were also discussing excitedly. How delightful. We should have taught those bandits in Yunin a lesson long ago. Garashi-sama is so cool. He rushed to Yunin Village alone and made the powerful Raikage withdraw the ultimatum. How dare they not admit defeat? Garashi-sama is the god of ninja. Hearing this heated discussion, everyone was a little dumbfounded. Wait, didn't we just come out of the Hyuga clan? Isn't the news spread too fast? How did it spread before us? Everyone was puzzled and then turned their heads to look at Mizuki. Mizuki, what's going on? Mizuki said calmly, I'm worried that our Naruto-sama will take the credit and say that Raikage's surrender is the result of his diplomacy, so I quickly came to a conclusion. Asuma rubbed his chin. You don't say. It seems that it's possible. Kakashi patted him on the shoulder. It's not that it's possible, they are already here. Everyone turned their heads and saw several Umbu wearing animal masks coming towards them. Ryoma's face under the mask was very ugly. These bastards moved too fast. Mizuki joked. Umbu, do you have any instructions from Naruto-sama? Ryoma's voice was cold. According to the intelligence, the Sanbai is resurrected on the beach near Kirin, and the Mizukage is mobilizing people to capture and seal it. Naruto-sama ordered you to destroy Kirin's operation. Even if you can't capture the Sanbai, you must expel the Sanbai to the deep sea or kill it directly. Minato sneered. Why, do you want to transfer us away from Wood Leaf so that you can control public opinion? Ryoma snorted. What public opinion? I don't understand what you are talking about, and can the resurrection of the Bijou be controlled? It's quite a coincidence. Mizuki shrugged. However, even if there is no such thing, Naruto-sama will find ways to arrange tasks for us, right? When they mocked each other, Kakashi's heart beat violently. Sanbai resurrection? Thinking of the key points of Lin's resurrection that Senior mentioned 4 years ago, he couldn't help but feel thirsty and his body trembled. As long as we catch the Sanbai, Lin can be resurrected. Noticing Kakashi's strangeness, Guy wondered, Kakashi, what's wrong with you? Mizuki, pay attention to your words. Ryoma suddenly raised his voice and then said, if you don't dare to go, then forget it. Who told you to be that person's friend? I don't dare to force you. At this time, Kakashi suddenly said, I'll go. Everyone looked at him doubtfully. Kakashi, you? Kakashi shook his head slightly and looked at Ryoma with burning eyes. I'll take this task. Ryoma's eyebrows wrinkled under the mask. You alone? That won't do. How can I rest assured that you will do such a dangerous task alone? You don't believe in my strength? Kakashi said seriously. Anyway, I can still escape. That's even more impossible. How can you complete the task if you only think about escaping? Ryoma shook his head and sighed. In short, this task can only be taken by all of you. You, Kakashi, are you sure you really want to go? Mizuki suddenly asked. Kakashi nodded heavily. I have a reason to go. Reason? Ryoma was puzzled. Is it just to kill Sanbai to avenge Lin? I really don't know what to do with you. Mizuki sighed. I'll go with you. Mizuki, you. Kakashi looked at him in shock. He naturally knew that Mizuki was a man who dedicated his life to preaching, and he was willing to accompany him to carry out the task at such a time. Garashi said that the most important thing is always the people. Mizuki said as he looked at Ryoma, moreover that Naruto-sama underestimated our faith. He thought that if we were not in Woodleaf, no one would stand up for us? Senpai. Kakashi was touched. Even if Senpai was not in Woodleaf, he would still be taken care of by Senpai. This bastard. Ryoma's voice was cold. Be careful, don't die outside. Huh. You can't be thinking of colluding with Kirin to frame us, right? Mizuki's face was sad. It seems that I have to inform Garashi in advance. If we die, remember to avenge us. Ryoma's face under the mask turned green. If they accidentally died, would they blame it on him? Chapter 375. In a hidden room, Asuma and the others gathered in a circle. Looking at Kakashi, they exclaimed, Rin is not dead? Kakashi shushed them. Keep your voice down. Guy wondered, why are you so nervous? Kakashi looked serious. In case Kirin knows that Rin is still alive, and may even affect the birth of a new Jinchuriki, they will spare no effort to assassinate her. Relax. Asuma patted him on the shoulder. This is Woodleaf, the enemy can't come in. Even if it's 1 in 10,000 risk, I don't want to take it. Kakashi's voice was heavy. And is there really no danger in Woodleaf? Hearing him speak so seriously, everyone who was happy because of Rin's news also calmed down. You're right, that guy Danzo can do anything. Everyone be careful, don't leak Rin's news. Seeing everyone exhorting each other, Kakashi was relieved and sincerely thanked them. Thank you, everyone. What thank you everyone, Rin is also our friend. Shizun said with dissatisfaction. That's right, it's too much to hide Rin's news, we were sad for a long time. Kurenai also said angrily. By the way, you secretly hid Rin but you didn't do anything to her, did you? Asuma poked him in the chest with his elbow. Kakashi was speechless. What kind of person do you think I am? Of course you're a pervert. Guy said matter-of-factly. Last time I saw you secretly buy a book with color. Kakashi's old face blushed. That's studying? How can a scholar be considered a pervert? After a while, everyone finally calmed down from the inexplicable excitement. Mizuki asked, Kirin has a lot of strong people and we participated in the killing of the Mizukage. It's not an exaggeration to say that we have a deep hatred for Kirin. In this case, it won't be easy to snatch the Sanbai from them. Are you sure you don't want to contact Garashi in advance? Kakashi hesitated for a long time, and finally shook his head gently. No, didn't you say that Senpai is tracking a group of very dangerous people? Even Senpai thinks it's dangerous, we shouldn't disturb him. Guy nodded seriously. Yes, we can't always trouble Senpai, we have to play some role. Although the strength gap between us and Garashi is big, we can still be regarded as strong in the ninja world. Asuma said, as for the Mist Village, it's just at the bottom of the 5 great shinobi villages, we don't necessarily have no chance of winning. The most important thing is that our tacit understanding isn't something the Mist Village can compare to. Everyone secretly nodded. In the past, San Crypsis and Kirin were tied at the bottom of the 5 great ninja villages, but in recent years San Crypsis has been developing rapidly, while Kirin has been in a mess because of the policy of the Blood Mist Village. In this case, it's not impossible to snatch the Sanbai from Kirin's hands. On the side, Kurenai suggested, I heard that there is a force inside Kirin that is resisting the Mizukage, and there are rebellions from time to time. Should we contact this group of rebels before we act? I think it's okay. The Sanbai is not as important as the stability of the village, right? Shizun nodded in agreement but immediately hesitated. But will the rebels in Kirin really cooperate with us? If we capture the Sanbai, won't we be betraying Kirin's interests? That depends on how unpopular the 4th Mizukage is in the village. If the threat of his continued existence exceeds the loss of the Sanbai, then it shouldn't be difficult for Kirin to make a choice. Mizuki said in a deep voice. Kakashi nodded slightly. In short, let's try to contact them first. 2 days later, Kirin village. Bordered soil, wearing a black trench coat with red clouds, leaned on the windowsill, looking at the drizzle outside the house, lost in thought. Suddenly an aloe head came out of the ground. Looking at the rain so openly, you seem to be slacking off. Bordered Soil asked without looking back. Am I slacking off? Black Setsu laughed twice. You don't seem to care about the capture of the sandbai? Bordered Soil was silent for a moment. It's just the sandbai, no need to pay attention to it. The sandbai is recognized as Kirin, and this time the resurrection location is near Kirin. Normally no one should bother us, of course we can take our time to capture it. Black Setsu paused and then said, but this time is different. With Leaf, Naruto seems to want to send some people away from the village and specially arrange the task of capturing or killing the sandbai. Some people? Bordered Soil's eyes suddenly sharpened. Your former good friends including Hatake Kakashi. Black Setsu laughed. Kakashi. Bordered Soil's eyes were complicated. One moment he missed and the other moment he hated. Black Setsu didn't urge him, quietly waiting for him to recall. After a long time, Bordered Soil asked in a hoarse voice, have they arrived in Kirin? Black Setsu laughed. Not only have they arrived but they also contacted the rebels. The rebels? Bordered Soil's eyes flashed a touch of vigilance. Among those people, some of them suspect Yagura. They must be completely eradicated. He originally intended to develop Kirin as a transition to the future of the Akatsuki, but his control still aroused some suspicion, forcing him to carry out bloody suppression again. As time went by, the number of rebels in Kirin was increasing. It seems that your old friends are very interested in the sandbai? Black Setsu asked. Do you want to close the net in advance and seal the sandbai as soon as possible? Bordered Soil didn't care about what Black Setsu said about sealing the sandbai, but asked, you said they are interested in this matter? Black Setsu laughed. The most interested one is Kakashi. The others seemed to want to refuse the task at first, but he insisted and accepted it. Want to kill the sandbai to avenge Rin? Bordered Soil's eyes were complicated, and suddenly he was furious. What's the use of thinking about this now? Can Rin come back to life? You want to pretend to save yourself? I will never let you do as you wish. I will let you live in pain and guilt for the rest of your life. Black Setsu sighed helplessly. This kid is at it again. Then what are you going to do? Bordered Soil sneered. Speed up the capture of the sandbai and let them in at the last step, then seal the sandbai in front of him. I want him to never be redeemed. Superfluous? Black Setsu thought, but he asked, won't they see through this? It doesn't matter if they see through it. Kirin has an irreconcilable hatred with them. Bordered Soil said indifferently, even if they see through it, they will only think that Yagura deliberately led them into a trap. No one will think of me. Chapter 376. A blood-curdling scream suddenly rang out from within the hazy fog. The smell of blood filled the air, and even the mist was stained with a trace of blood. Are you kidding me? Even Shimizu Garashi couldn't kill me. I didn't expect that I would die in the hands of a nobody like you. The Watermelon Mountain pufferfish looked at the man who used to be his subordinate in disbelief. Ghost Mermaid was silent. It was the first time he knew that the old captain was so humorous. Why did you betray Kirin and contact the rebels and with Leaf's people? I was saving Kirin. That man will take Kirin into the abyss sooner or later. Ghost Mermaid stirred the hilt of the sword with both hands. You'd better say these words in hell. The pufferfish snorted, and his breath was completely weakened. Ghost Mermaid pulled out the hilt and put it back to his waist, then picked up the weapon of the pufferfish. This is the big sword, shark muscle? Sensing the huge chakra in his body, the shark muscle wriggled a few times and rubbed his palm intimately. Even the weapon will betray? Ghost Mermaid sighed in his heart and turned back with a cold face. Those rebels may have found out the problem. We must return to the village as soon as possible. Although it was not the first time that they were saved by Ghost Mermaid, looking at his inhuman face, several ninjas of the Secret Signal Department nodded embarrassedly and did not dare to approach him. Only a female ninja with a sweet smile took the initiative to step forward. Thank you for saving us again, Mr. Kusanagi. Your ninjas of the Secret Signal Department have important information. I can't let you fall into the hands of the enemy. I'm just doing my duty. After that, his eyes suddenly became cold. They're coming. Let's go. Seeing Ghost Mermaid jump to the tree, everyone followed him in a panic. However, how could these civilian ninjas of the Secret Signal Department keep up with Ghost Mermaid? Before they ran far, the distance between them was widened. Behind them, Kirin's radical ninjas had caught up. The last few ninjas of the Secret Signal Department shouted in panic. Ghost Mermaid, come and save us. You're the one who protects us. You should stay behind. Ghost Mermaid slightly frowned, then stopped and turned around. Seeing the Ghost Mermaid come back, they immediately let out a sigh of relief. You stay here, we will tell the Mizukage-sama about your achievements. Let's go. Don't even think about running away. As he spoke, dozens of Kirin ninjas caught up. It's her, Empress Shomiai. Looking at the female ninja who was the leader of the rebels, Kisame quickly calmed down. There's trouble. He's a genius ninja who has developed 2 Kekkei Genkai, lava release and boiling release. It's already difficult for him to deal with him alone, not to mention the other elites of Kirin. The few people who fell behind saw the enemy chasing after them and hurriedly fled forward. Needless to say, there were already people chasing after them. Don't even think about breaking my defense. Ghost Merman wielded his muscles and fiercely hacked towards the enemy. You should be the one who can't stop me. Empress Shomiai puffed up her cheeks and cast a monster melting magic towards the Ghost Mermaid. Ghost Mermaid knew the power of Empress Shomiai's lava release and didn't dare to ignore it, but the enemy broke through his defense line. Damn it, I must make a decision as soon as possible. Ghost Mermaid turned around and jumped while making hand seals. Because the hand seals were complicated and there were many disturbances, he had been hit several times by the enemy's ninjutsu when he finished the hand seals. Fortunately, his ninjutsu was finally completed. Water release, big explosion, water shockwave. A lake that shrouded half of the forest instantly appeared. For the Kirin people who lived by the sea since childhood, water was naturally not a problem, but their speed was still affected. Ghost Mermaid didn't have time to deal with the injuries on his body and rushed forward at the fastest speed. The few people who fell behind before were entangled by the enemy and were seriously injured in a short time. After Ghost Mermaid arrived, he quickly killed the rebel ninjas. Several people in the secret signal department breathed a sigh of relief. Take me away. Before they finished their words, Ghost Mermaid pulled out a short knife and cut their throats like lightning. Several people covered their throats, their eyes were full of disbelief. Why aren't we companions? There are too many enemies, I'm not sure I can stop all of them, and my task is to protect the information, not you. After dealing with them, Ghost Mermaid caught up with the team again, but this time he was at the back to supervise the others. As long as someone was physically weak and fell behind the team, he would come forward to deal with the hidden danger. When they escaped to the end of the forest, there were only 2 people left in the secret signal department. Ghost Mermaid, because he was at the back, attracted all the enemy's firepower, and his body was covered in dirty blood. Looking at the turbulent river ahead, one of them asked nervously, "What should we do now?" For a civilian ninja like him, it was okay to walk on water normally, but it was too difficult to walk on such a turbulent river. I'm sorry. What's wrong? The ninja of the secret signal department opened his eyes wide in disbelief and looked down at the blade that went through his chest. You bastard. Ghost Mermaid ignored his resentment and turned to look at the last person. The last one who stayed was the only one who was not afraid of him and even thanked him, Lane. Perhaps he was worried that he would regret it, so Ghost Mermaid didn't even give her any chance to speak, and directly and accurately stabbed into Lane's body. But unexpectedly, not only did he not see hatred in Lane's eyes, but they were full of pity and sympathy. Looking at Lane's eyes, Ghost Mermaid was puzzled. You don't hate me? He could understand the hatred in the eyes of the companions he had killed with his own hands, but he couldn't understand Lane's expression. Blood dripped from the corner of Lane's mouth, and she shook her head with a smile. I just think that such a life must be very hard. Mr. Yamato. After that, she closed her eyes. Looking at the dead Lane and his bloody hands, Ghost Mermaid doubted himself for the first time in his life. Is such a world really right? Before he could be confused for long, the pursuing troops caught up again. Empress Shomiai looked at the 2 people lying on the ground and shook her head. You chose to kill your companions, so cruel. The essence of a ninja is to complete the task. I'm just abiding by my duty. Ghost Mermaid said and jumped back. If you want my life, catch up. Seeing Ghost Mermaid jump into the river, a Kirin ninja asked, Empress Shomiai-sama, should we chase after him? After pondering for a moment, Empress Shomiai shook her head. His water release is very strong and it's not good for us to fight in the water. Moreover, he killed all the members of the secret signal department, so it's useless to chase after him. Let's go back and see if anyone is still alive. When everyone left, a tall figure came out of the forest. Looking at Lane, Aizen sighed. How rare. With Ghost Mermaid's appearance, there was someone who liked him, and she didn't even complain when he killed her. This must be true love. Aizen bent his finger, and a little green light fell on Lane like raindrops. I'm curious, can you be the chain that binds the shark? Chapter 377. Half a day later, Kisame returned to the village and met with the Mizukage at the secret place. Mizukage-sama, Watermelon Mountain Fugu betrayed Kirin and tried to give the signal department to the rebels. They have all been killed by me. Hearing Kisame's report, the childlike fourth Mizukage turned around. Watermelon Mountain Fugu is a trial I left for you, and you didn't let me down. Trial? Yagura smiled. A trial to see the truth of this world. Kisame frowned slightly. Mizukage-sama, I don't understand. Only you, who have carried out countless dirty tasks for the country and the village, and even betrayed to complete the task, and whose hands are already stained with the blood of your companions, can understand that the ninja world is just a false existence. Kisame seemed to be touched by these words. He lowered his head and looked at his hands. I understood this when I killed my companions at the beginning. As a mist ninja, I have to kill my fellow mist ninja. What is the meaning of everything I insist on? What is my purpose? Where is my position? The only thing I can feel is my own falsehood. Since you've come to such an understanding, then welcome to be my companion. A man wearing a whirlpool mask and a shamade hairstyle came out of the darkness. I will find a place for you in this false world. Who are you? Kisame put his right hand on the hilt of the shark bone behind him. Bordered Soil opened his eyes. Like you, I am looking for the real person in the false. After all, to bring Kisame into the Akatsuki, in order to avoid the subsequent collapse of the image, he didn't pretend to be Uchiha Madara. Sharingan. I understand the person I thought was the fourth Mizukage is actually you. Kisame laughed at himself. Then what is the meaning of me killing my companions? At this moment, as if lightning flashed through his mind, the memory that was sealed by someone suddenly opened and Kisame whispered, So, everything in the world is false? Bordered Soil didn't care, thinking that Kisame was shocked by the truth. He said, From now on, I will be your companion and create a real world for you. Ghost Mermaid looked at him with a complicated look, then smiled and said, I see. I will work for you from now on. Why does this look so weird? Although Jiha was a bit confused, Bordered Soil didn't think too much about it. He only thought that it was the side effect of the Ghost Mermaid's emotional state. Good, I will tell you about my Moon Eye plan. Leaving the secret place, Ghost Merman raised his head and looked at the misty sky. The truth of this world is indeed as misty as the sky of Kirin. In a secret location, Black Zetsu emerged from the ground. Looks like he's the new companion you've chosen. But is it really okay to tell a newcomer about Yagura and the Eye of the Moon? Black Zetsu asked. Don't doubt those you use and don't use those you doubt. Bordered Soil sighed with a complicated tone. This is what my senior once told me. Unfortunately, I have to use this sentence to destroy this fake world. At the same time, in an underground cave. I remember that the way to inform Milord is, don't bother, I'm right here. Hearing this voice, Ghost Mermaid's back muscles tightened, but he quickly relaxed. He turned around and saw a half-naked man in front of him. It seems that you've made your decision? Aizen smiled. I lost. Ghost Mermaid sighed. You predicted this scene 3 years ago, and then sealed my memory at that time so that I could witness it with my own eyes. At first, he did wonder if this was a collusion, but he quickly denied this conjecture. Both sides were stronger than him, and he didn't have the value to make them act. The most important thing is that the person who controlled the fourth Mizukage didn't seem to be lying, as if he really thought that he had everything under control. If this was an act, he could only admit that the other party's acting was too good. Thinking of this, Ghost Mermaid asked, I live in the fake world that the masked man created, and the masked man is living in the fake world you created? Aizen clapped his hands lightly. You're worthy of being my favorite person, seeing through the truth so quickly. Kisame couldn't help but take a deep breath. The masked man who was powerful enough to control the fourth Mizukage was just a chess piece living in the fake world, and he even thought that he was a god who could see through all illusions. Ghost Mermaid felt sad and funny, but more than that, he was shocked by Aizen's power and vision. This feeling was like looking up at the stars when he was a child. He was shocked by the vastness of the stars. Ghost Mermaid exhaled heavily. If it's Aizen-sama, you can definitely help me find the truth. However, Aizen shook his head slightly. You're wrong, the person who can help you find the truth is not me. What? The task is fake, the world is fake, but the people who really care about you aren't. They are the best proof that you've been to this world. The people who really care about me. Ghost Mermaid's eyes were confused as he recalled the woman who died in his hands. She was the only person who cared about him until her death. But in the end he killed her for a fake task. Sure enough, people like me are only fit to live in a fake world forever. In such a whisper, a third person's voice sounded in the cave. Please don't say that, Mr. Kusanagi, everyone has their own value and meaning. Hearing this voice, Ghost Merman turned around in shock as if he was shocked by an electric shock. Aren't you dead? I killed you with my own hands. Lane looked at Aizen gratefully. It was Aizen-sama who saved me and gave me a new life. By the way, I saved the others too. Aizen smiled. Of course they won't be as free as Lane, they hate you now. He knew that Ghost Mermaid didn't care about the lives of the others, but Lane cared. Since he wanted Lane to be the chain that tied the shark, he had to make her feel no guilt. Sure enough, hearing that her companions were alive, Lane relaxed a lot and looked at Ghost Mermaid aggressively. I know, Mr. Kusanagi, you're a very gentle person who always takes care of everyone. When the enemy chased you, you hurt yourself. Lane said softly. But you never live for yourself, you only treat yourself as a tool. It's too tiring to live like this. Seeing Lane's pitiful eyes and approaching footsteps, Ghost Mermaid was scared and stepped back. Wait, don't come over. Don't try to get close to me. He could kill people, but it was too difficult for him to deal with this situation. Lane blinked. Mr. Kusanagi, what's wrong? Ghost Mermaid was helpless and looked at Aizen for help. However, Aizen smiled and said, even a ninja should have their own life. A ninja is first and foremost a human, then a tool as you call it. But if you really want a mission, then let me give you a mission. Aizen smiled. Try to communicate with Lane using human emotions. Chapter 378. In an abandoned village outside Kirin, the people who were called rebels by Kirin gathered here. Seeing Empress Shomiai, a group of people quickly surrounded her. Leader, did you catch them? For this leader who was only 17 years old, but her strength could already be ranked in the top 3 of Kirin, and her ability and character were very outstanding, they were very convinced. No, I underestimated the strength of that Kisame. Empress Shomiai sighed. I didn't expect that the last member of Kirin's 7 legendary swordsmen would die in the hands of his own subordinates. Hearing Empress Shomiai's words, everyone was half shocked and half sighed with emotion. I didn't expect that shark face to be so powerful. The name of the 7 legendary swordsmen is completely over. However, there are some unexpected gains. Before escaping, Kisame tried to kill the other ninjas of the Secret Signal Department to keep the secret, but those people were lucky enough to survive in the end, and they also expressed their willingness to join us, only hoping that we can help them get revenge. Empress Shomiai's eyes flashed with a touch of confusion. If only 1 or 2 of them didn't die, she could understand that Kisame's ability was not good, but all of them didn't die, this kind of thing was impossible. Empress Shomiai secretly thought, unless someone followed us all the way and saved those who were killed, but what's the purpose of doing so? Could it be that the people of other ninja villages deliberately increased our real strength, so that Kirin's strength would continue to weaken in the turmoil? The others didn't think so much, after all they didn't participate in the pursuit, so they thought that Kisame made a mistake in a hurry. Great, the information intercepted before can be deciphered. We can actually survive in the hands of the Umbu, it seems that even God is on our side. After the excitement, Ao lowered his voice and asked, Leader, do you really want to cooperate with Woodleaf and the others? His supercilious eye was obtained from Woodleaf during the war, so he naturally had his guard up against Woodleaf. Anyone he looked at was someone who wanted to steal his supercilious eye. Empress Shomiai nodded gently. The Mizukage is too strong. If we want to assassinate the Mizukage and change Kirin's fate, we must get foreign aid. Don't forget, the coup launched by the Kagaya clan with the other Kekkei Genkai clans was suppressed without causing any waves. Speaking of the Radiance Knight clan's coup d'etat, everyone's expression turned solemn. Although those Kekkei Genkai clans were too reckless, the fact that they could easily suppress those clans shows the strength of the Mizukage. The 3rd Mizukage-sama must have never thought that the 4th Mizukage-sama who took over from him would destroy the Ice family. Yes, the 3rd Mizukage-sama is wrong. We were also deceived by that guy's appearance. Who would have thought that Yagura, who was so enthusiastic before becoming the Mizukage, was like a different person after becoming the Mizukage? But no matter what, joining hands with Konoha is still too unpleasant. Empress Shomiai looked around at everyone. Not to mention us, Yunin and Rock Crypsis also suffered a loss in the hands of Woodleaf. But now, didn't they also choose to forget their hatred? If we continue to be immersed in the hatred of the past, let alone revenge, it will be difficult to maintain the status of the 5 great ninja villages. Of course, we do have to consider everyone's feelings, and cooperation with Woodleaf will only be done in private. This time the others didn't speak. In fact, they also understood this truth, but they didn't want to lose face. Seeing that they didn't continue to insist, Empress Shomiai was a little relieved. Let's go and meet our ally. A group of Kirin ninjas followed behind Empress Shomiai, trying to open their eyes, intending to give Woodleaf a silent deterrent. In another room, Kakashi and others were sitting in their seats vigilantly. After all, they were in the enemy's territory, and they didn't dare to relax, let alone talk about anything. Suddenly the door was pushed open. Kirin ninjas led by Empress Shomiai came in. As soon as they came in, Kakashi and others were shocked. What's wrong with these Kirin ninjas? Is there something wrong with their eyes? Seeing Woodleaf's people were deterred, and didn't dare to speak, those ninjas who were trying to open their eyes nodded with satisfaction, and one of them said, "The leader has agreed to your request, but you have to show your sincerity," Kakashi said in a deep voice. "Didn't we also help you attract the Mizuki's firepower? This is a matter of mutual benefit." "It's not the same." Empress Shomiai said, "We originally planned to accumulate more strength before launching an attack, but cooperation has brought forward our preparation work. In addition, the Sanbai is an important force of our Kirin. If you get it, it will be a major blow to Kirin's strength." Kakashi frowned slightly. He didn't want to wait for a moment, but no matter how anxious he was, he could only calm down and ask, "What do you want?" Empress Shomiai said seriously, "I want a promise from Shimizu Garashi to help us defeat the Mizuki." Kakashi refused without thinking. "Impossible, we can't help Senpai make a decision." "Then there's no way." Empress Shomiai sighed. "Your value is far less than Shimizu Garashi." At this moment, Mizuki suddenly said, "We agree." Asuma and others looked at him in disbelief. Mizuki said calmly, "Before I came, I asked Garashi and he guessed the conditions you might ask for, and this is one of them." "I agree. Senpai." Kakashi was moved. Senpai is still the same as before, like the will of fire, even if they can't see it, he can still shine on them. As expected of him. Kirin was secretly shocked. They didn't expect their thoughts to be completely guessed by him. Looking at the shocked and awe-inspiring expression of Kirin, Mizuki secretly thought, unlike the 4th Mizuki who hates Woodleaf, these people should be the pro-Woodleaf faction, or the pro-Garashi faction. If one of them can become the 5th Mizuki, maybe Kirin will become the same as the Sand Crypsis. The attitude of the other villages seems to be useless, but he heard from Garashi that there is an undercurrent behind the calm of the ninja world, and it is likely that in the future all the villages will unite. Although Garashi's original intention was to let him prepare in advance, he thought of another level. For a son like Garashi to only shine on Woodleaf is really a loss to the ninja world. For the future of the world, I should make more people aware of the importance of light. Empress Shomiai was also excited. Great, Kirin can finally be saved. Shimizu Garashi is an enemy, of course she can't sleep and eat well, but as a teammate he is really reliable. P.S. Sorry the alarm didn't wake me up, I overslept. The 3rd watch will be tonight, of course the 3rd watch will be in the early morning. Chapter 379. On the surface of the sea near Kirin, the Sanbai roared in pain as thousands of chains bound it. The chains were engraved with jutsu, and under the activation of chakra, they formed some kind of formation. Mizuki-sama's formation is too powerful, even a monster like the Sanbai can't break free. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be so easy to capture the Biju. These Kirin ninjas whispered while looking at the figure standing on the back of the Sanbai. Their eyes were full of awe. At this time, a Jonin stepped on the sea and jumped towards Yagura with a panicked expression. Although he knew what was going on, Yagura pretended to be puzzled and asked, "What's wrong?" The Jonin jumped on the turtle's back. "Mizuki-sama, the rebels suddenly started a large-scale attack on the village." Yagura's eyes were dignified as he said calmly, "Take 2/3 of the people here as reinforcements." 2/3? The Jonin was surprised. "But you, with me here, even if there is only one person left, I can seal it." Yagura's voice was full of confidence. "Go, don't let those rebels take advantage of you." "Yes." The originally bustling and crowded sea quickly became spacious and empty. Yagura stood on the turtle's back and looked at the sea with no sadness or joy in his eyes. Only 1/3 of the people left. Are you going to make a move? Sure enough, in the distance several figures rushed at a very fast speed. Their movements naturally attracted the attention of the Kirin ninjas. It's Woodleaf's people. Damn, why are Woodleaf's ninjas here? At this time Yagura's voice spread. These Woodleaf's ninjas should be here to snatch the sandbai. Go block them. Everyone was hesitant. Mizuki-sama, about sealing the sandbai? The seal is almost complete, I alone am enough to deal with the rest. Yagura said this, they naturally didn't insist, they took back their chakra and rushed towards the Woodleaf's ninjas. Water release, water dragon bullet technique. Water release, water shockwave. The ninjas who can participate in the capture of the sandbai are at least chunin, and there are dozens of jonins. With the help of the water they gathered together like a wave. However, when the wave of water rushed towards the Woodleaf's ninjas, it was absorbed by a figure standing in front of them. Nether release? Be careful, it's the monster with 3 Kekkei Genkai. Try to use water to wrap the power of the sea, he can only absorb water made of chakra. However, the Woodleaf's people didn't want to attack. After the first wave attack, several ninjas behind Mizuki's chakra rushed quickly. Genjutsu, dark. Fire, ash. When release, great breakthrough. Most of the ninjas, the jonins, were worse and S of darkness. The jonins who quickly woke up joined forces to use the water wall technique, using a large area of water wall to block the approaching flames. But at the same time these jonins used the water wall, a strange green figure broke through the water wall and rushed in with a strange cry. If Kurenai, Asuma, and Kakashi were using ranged attacks, then Guy was attacking the Kirin ninjas who broke free from the genjutsu and tried to wake up the others. Damn, this guy is too fast. Although the ninjas could react, their speed couldn't keep up, plus they had to deal with the enemy's attack, they were a little flustered. Hundreds of Kirin ninjas were suppressed by a few people. This kind of tacit cooperation as expected of you. Yagura stood on the turtle's back and calmly looked at the battle below. His right hand grabbed the iron rod and drew a circle of water in the air. Water release. Water mirror technique. In the next moment, several figures rushed out of the ripples on the surface of the mirror. It was the appearance of Konoha's people. The people who came out of the mirror quickly rushed to the battlefield. Oh, is this a clone of me? Seeing his clone, Guy was excited. Let me see how powerful I am. Woodleaf's whirlwind strength. Guy jumped high and rushed to the other side with a flying kick. The clone on the opposite side did the same thing. Their right legs collided in the air in an X shape, causing a burst of whirlwind. After a moment of stalemate, both of them jumped back at the same time. He has the same strength and speed as me. Guy was surprised but immediately excited. But can you use this technique? Hashiman Tanku open. After all, it wasn't a life and death battle yet, so Guy only opened the 3rd gate. Even so, it allowed him to possess strength and speed that far surpassed that of his clone. After all, the clone wasn't a real human, his body didn't have the concept of the Hashiman Tanku, so he could only look at Guy dumbfounded. This technique is beyond his level. After a flying kick, the clone turned into a splash of water and scattered in all directions. On the other side, Asuma and the others were also facing their own clones. Although they didn't finish the battle as quickly as Guy, they quickly gained the upper hand. On the one hand, the mirror technique couldn't completely copy their strength. On the other hand, the combat experience and cooperation of these clones were far inferior to the original, so naturally they were quickly suppressed. In their respective battles, Kakashi quietly circled behind Yagura while dealing with the clone. He raised the forehead protector covering his left eye, and the 3 tomo in his pupil rotated rapidly, finally turning into a large windmill pattern. Kemue. The space behind Yagura began to distort as if it was going to swallow him. The consumption of eye power made Kakashi's left eye painful, and it even bled, but he didn't care at all. He just stared at Yagura. It's going to succeed. But the moment the space vortex formed, Yagura dodged to the side. What? He dodged it? Kakashi was shocked. His Kamui could distort space to attack, and it was difficult to defend against it directly, but his opponent dodged in a blind spot. Is this Kage's strength? Don't underestimate Kage. Yagura laughed contemptuously, and then drew 2 circles in the air. From these 2 water mirrors, 2 more clones of the crowd walked out. 3 replicas? How did this guy do it? Kakashi and the others were shocked. This water Kage who was killed by Garashi was actually so powerful. After the shock, they all realized one thing: this time they were in trouble. Their original plan was to break through the encirclement as quickly as possible, then use their clones to support the 4 violet flame formation, and then just surround the enemy. But now, they didn't even have time to get close to Yagura before they were blocked by the mirror technique. What's worse was that those who were controlled by the illusion were already showing signs of waking up. Although Kurenai could still use the dark sneak technique, but after being prepared and experienced, the effect would only get worse and worse. The scales of victory seemed to be tilting towards Kirin's side. Chapter 380. Kirin village was filled with the sound of fighting and shouting. Bordered Soil was sitting leisurely in the corner of the village, unaffected by the chaos around him. In front of him there was a rippling water mirror. The mirror showed the battle on the sea in the distance. "You want to use my eyes to attack me, Kakashi? You really haven't grown up." Looking at Kakashi, who was called a genius since childhood, showing a shocked look in front of a puppet controlled by him, Bordered Soil was very happy. "Work harder, try to please me, and then I will crush your efforts bit by bit." Just as Bordered Soil was madly fantasizing, Black Setsu's voice suddenly came from the side. "The situation has changed." Bordered Soil frowned and asked, "What's wrong?" Black Setsu sighed, "It's Akatsuki. Akatsuki's people are here." Bordered Soil couldn't help but laugh. "What's there to worry about? They are all on the same side." Bordered Soil's face was a little dark under his mask. He remembered that his companions didn't know that he was the one controlling Kirin. Thinking of this, Bordered Soil asked, "What's going on?" Black Setsu sighed, "Didn't you ask me to find out why those who should have died in the hands of the demon hunters didn't die?" Bordered Soil asked in a deep voice, "Is there a connection with them?" Black Setsu nodded. "It's Aizen who saved those people. He is responsible for the conflict between the rebels and Kirin. Kakuzu and Raiga are also here. They are responsible for capturing the Sanbai." Aizen. Bordered Soil wasn't surprised that Aizen could save those people. After all, even Yahiko was saved by him. However, why does this guy always ruin my business? Bordered Soil was depressed. That bastard is like his nemesis. Aizen saved Yahiko. He couldn't pretend to be Uchiha Madara. Senpai saw through his aura. He had to become the masterpiece of 2 men. This time he brought people to cause trouble for him again. Damn it, why didn't they hold a meeting for such a big matter? Aren't they afraid of exposing the organization's goal? Black Setsu explained for them, if it's just capturing the wild Sanbai, it shouldn't make people think of the Bijou. After all, capturing all the Bijou means starting a war with the shinobi world, and it's extremely difficult. Most people wouldn't think that the Akatsuki has such a big ambition. Bordered Soil calmed down and said, "Actually, this isn't a bad thing. Anyway, catching tailed beasts is our goal. It's not a big deal to give it to Shao in advance." "You decide, but..." Black Setsu reminded him. "Don't make it too obvious. It'll be bad if someone finds out." "Don't worry, there won't be a problem." On the surface of the sea, 2 sneaky figures were hiding under the water, only revealing their heads. "It's time," Raiga said. "If with Leaf's people lose, no one will help us pin down Kirin." Kakuzu said concisely. "Go." After that, the 2 directly dived into the water and approached the Sanbai. The Sanbai, with half of its body submerged in the sea, naturally noticed the 2. Seeing them approaching it and even taking out a scroll that made it feel very dangerous, the Sanbai roared fiercely. Yagura didn't know what was going on. He picked up the iron rod and hit the turtle's back. "Be quiet." However, Kakashi was careful. After noticing Sanbai's movements, he reluctantly opened his Sharingan and looked under the sea. "There's chakra flowing?" Kakashi was surprised and shouted. "Not good, someone is sealing the Sanbai under the sea." The battlefield suddenly became quiet for a moment, and both sides subconsciously looked under the sea. Yagura couldn't pretend that he didn't know anything. "Damn it, you thieves dare to steal the Sanbai. Water release, great whirlpool." Under his control, a huge whirlpool suddenly appeared on the surface of the sea, like a black hole, sucking in the objects under the sea. Raiga was presiding over the seal written in advance on the scroll, and after noticing the whirlpool, he gestured to Kakuzu. Kakuzu didn't say a word and rushed towards the whirlpool. A mask appeared on his left shoulder. He opened his mouth and spouted a powerful water cannon directly penetrating the whirlpool. Then without stopping, Kakuzu rushed out of the sea. Grudge, final shot. 5 masks gathered on his right arm at the same time, and at the moment he rushed out of the sea, he condensed a terrifying chakra beam and shot it towards Yagura. What is this idiot doing? Yagura didn't dare to face the power of the beam directly, he cursed in his heart and quickly retreated. Although he didn't want to fight with Kakuzu, Kakuzu was like entangling him, using various compound ninjutsu to bombard him, making him suffer. The Mizukage is this kind of trash? It's not that powerful. Kakuzu couldn't help but ridicule him. Hearing Kakuzu's ridicule, Yagura couldn't stand it anymore. Idiot, I've been tolerating you for a long time. First, he summoned a water mirror to block Kakuzu's attack, then he used various water release ninjutsu. Although it's only a single water release in his hands, it's not inferior to the compound ninjutsu. Kakuzu's face was slightly dignified. That's more like it. While the two were fighting, some Kirin ninjas abandoned Wood Leaf and jumped into the sea and rushed towards Raiga. Seeing these strange and familiar faces, Raiga grinned. You dare to disturb me? Did I leave for too long and make you forget the fear of the 7 legendary swordsmen? Although he may be at the bottom of the group, he's still very strong outside of the group. Raiga bit the scroll in his mouth and waved the lightning sword with both hands, his body rapidly rotated. Lightning burial, lightning feast. With his body as the center, lightning spread along the sea like a whirlpool. Kirin ninjas who dived into the sea were electrocuted, their eyes turned white, and they sank to the bottom of the sea with white foam coming out of their mouth. Because of the lightning sword in his hand, even if they were in the water, Raiga wasn't affected at all. While the three sides were fighting, the sea suddenly violently rolled as if the god of the sea was angry, a monstrous wave hundreds of meters high was set off. Even Kirin ninjas who dealt with the sea all year round were scared to death seeing this scene. What the hell is going on? Is this an S-class water release ninjutsu? Impossible, this is definitely not something that can be done by humans. Quickly hide in the sea. Even Kakuzu and Yagura's pupils shrank when they saw this scene. What the hell is this? Suddenly a voice sounded. Wait, why isn't there a wave on Wood Leaf's side? Hearing this voice, the people who were still on the sea subconsciously looked in the direction of Wood Leaf's group. They saw that the wave seemed to be divided and it just happened to break where they were. No, this is Sage Mode. It's Ryuchi Cave's inorganic reincarnation. Yagura suddenly reacted and shouted, "Don't jump into the sea." But he was still a step too late, more than half of Kirin ninjas had already dived into the sea to avoid the waves. In the next moment, the sea seemed to have a life of its own and turned into chains, catching all the ninjas who jumped into the sea. Chapter 381. While they were still in shock and fear, the 100-meter-high wave finally hit them. Use the water wall to protect yourself. Don't have any contact with the sea. Yagura shouted. Hearing the Mizukage-sama's order, everyone who was shocked by this scene finally reacted and hurriedly used the water wall jutsu. However, not everyone can use water release, and not everyone's water wall jutsu can block such a monstrous wave. When the huge wave poured down, the sea in this area suddenly shook a few times. We can't stop it. Damn it, how long will this wave last? In the midst of these panicked screams, more than half of the mist ninjas were slapped into the sea and instantly controlled by Kuroto. When the wave passed, everyone who was still on the sea was gasping for breath, looking at the man with purple eyes in the distance. Their hearts were full of fear. Monster Wood Leaf's people are all monsters. Didn't they say that he's just a subordinate trained by Shimizu Garashi? Are you kidding me? Even his subordinates are so strong, how powerful is Shimizu Garashi himself? In one attack they lost 4/5 of their elite forces. This kind of overwhelming power made the rest of the ninjas almost lose the courage to resist. Suddenly the sea was turbulent. The blue sea turned into wriggling tentacles, binding those who escaped into the sea and sent them out of the sea. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to develop a religion in Kirin, Mizuki could completely suffocate them or control the sea to crush them directly. However, the Senjutsu chakra really consumes a lot of energy. Mizuki barely supported his body and pretended to be calm. If you still want their lives, give us the sanbai. Everyone didn't die. Hearing Mizuki's words, the rest of Kirin's ninjas were surprised and happy, looking at the Mizukage-sama standing on the turtle's back with expectation. However, after a moment of silence, Yagura said, I will never give the sanbai to Wood Leaf, the murderer of Sandame-sama. Hearing his words, the rest of the Kirin ninjas felt their hearts turn cold. Asuma couldn't help but sneer, you killed the third Mizukage's whole family and you want to avenge him? Yagura remained unmoved. They betrayed Sandame-sama's will. Even if Sandame-sama is still alive, he would agree with me. Asuma's lips twitched. Agreed with you killing his entire family? Shuei-mu shook his head and looked at Kakuzu. What about you? You don't intend to take your companion's life? Kakuzu looked at Raiga, who was tied up in a shameful position by the sea tentacles, and attacked. Earth's grudge, final shot. Shuei-mu didn't expect the other party to be so decisive and ruthless, completely disregarding the lives of his companions. Caught off guard, the tentacle binding Raiga was instantly severed by his chakra beam. After escaping, Raiga didn't fight back against Woodleaf and the others. Instead, he cursed at Kakuzu. Bastard, are you trying to kill me? It almost hit me. It's your bad luck if you die. Kakuzu said coldly and then looked at Shuei-mu. Sure enough, you must be very tired after using that kind of jutsu. How much chakra do you have left? Yagura looked at him coldly. You don't even have the power to kill them now, do you? I was almost fooled by you. Damn it. They saw the flaw. Shuei-mu was helpless. Although his combat power was very high, he still couldn't compare with these old guys when it comes to combat experience. After all, I'm not a real genius like Garashi. After this thought flashed in his mind, Shuei-mu's eyes became firm again. If you want to save them, go save them yourself. After that, most of the sea tentacles directly dissipated, and the unconscious Kirin ninjas fell into the sea. Not good, they will drown. Hurry up and save them. Without waiting for the Mizukige's order, the remaining Kirin ninjas hurriedly jumped into the sea to save them. Soon, only a few people were left on the surface of the vast sea. Why is there a small number of Kirin ninjas left on the sea? Kakuzu was puzzled, but suddenly he heard Yagura shouting. He's using wood release to absorb their chakra. Hurry up. You don't want Woodleaf to get the bijou, right? Kakuzu was silent for a moment and followed him. The seal scroll was lost and neither of them is good at sealing. In this case, letting Kirin get the Sanbai is indeed the best choice. After all, it's much easier to snatch the Jinchuriki from Kirin than from Woodleaf. Thinking of this, Kakuzu decisively released the Thunder Spear from his mask and shot it at Shuei-mu. Lightning release, false darkness. Next to him, Yagura used water bullets to attack his trapped subordinates. Kakuzu, oh. Yagura glanced at him. Idiot, he can use nether release, it's useless to attack him. Kill my subordinates so he can't absorb chakra. Kakuzu was surprised to find that his Thunder Spear was absorbed by the enemy. But this guy is really ruthless. He doesn't hesitate to kill his own people. Looking at Yagura vigilantly, Kakuzu once again used lightning release, false darkness. Of course, this time he attacked the trapped Kirin ninjas. On the other side, Raiga was being beaten by Kakashi and the others. If it was one-on-one he may have some advantage, but 5 against 1 the difference is too big. In just a few seconds he was in danger. Bastard, someone come and help me. If you don't help, I'll run away. Raiga shouted without any psychological burden. He has already run away twice, it's reasonable to do it again. This guy has nether release, it's impossible to kill him, and it's difficult to enter Sage mode in a short time, it's better to deal with the others first. Kakuzu explained, then turned around and left. Looking at the two people rushing towards them, Kakashi's heart was burning with anxiety. After all, they are near Kirin, the longer they delay the worse it will be for them. In the distance, Empress Shomiai stood on the shore with dozens of ninjas. They are really powerful, a mere 6 people can fight to this extent. If those two hadn't interfered in the battle, they might have already won. Empress Shomiai said seriously, I'm going to help them if they die here, not to mention the agreement. Shimizu Garashi is likely to vent his anger on Kirin. Hearing that Shimizu Garashi might vent his anger on them, everyone was a little scared. Then let's hurry up. We must not let our allies die in front of us. Amidst the harmonious voices, Qing asked with a conflicted tone, but didn't we agree before that the cooperation can't be made public? How can this be a cooperation? Empress Shomiai laughed. We're not helping Woodleaf deal with Mizukage-sama, we're capturing Raiga who betrayed Kirin, and bounty ninja Kakuzu who assassinated many politicians. Ao suddenly understood, so that's the case. I understand. Chapter 382. On the sea the battle was still going on. Give up, you have already lost. Looking at Kakashi's unwilling eyes, Yagura smiled happily. Absolutely, absolutely not. Kakashi clenched his teeth and insisted. Although there is a way to extract the bijou from the Jinchuriki's body, this is too taboo. Not to mention Kirin, even the other villages may be dissatisfied with Woodleaf. Even for Rin he can't sacrifice the interests of the village. So this is the only chance. Kakashi endured the pain and barely opened his left eye to look for an opportunity to use Kamui again. Humph. I'm willing to let you go because of Shimizu Garashi. Yagura coldly snorted, since you want to die, you can stay here forever. But at this moment, the sound of breaking air came from behind them. Raiga subconsciously dodged to the left. Then he saw a strong acidic liquid fly past where he was originally standing and fall into the sea. The few small fishes around him instantly dissolved into nothing, not even their bones remained. Seeing the power of the diluted acid, Raiga was scared and immediately turned around angrily. Which bastard attacked me? Then he saw Empress Shomiai leading a dozen jonin standing on the sea. It's you? As a rebellious ninja of Kirin, Raiga naturally knew the geniuses of the village. It's just that when he defected, the other party was just a little genius. Empress Shomiai. Yagura's eyes were cold. Do you want to collude with the enemy of the village? Aren't you the one who colluded with the enemy, Mizuki-sama? Terumi Mei was surprised. Raiga, the traitor ninja who betrayed the village, and Kakuzu, the traitor ninja who is wanted by daimyo, are all fighting alongside you. Yagura's face was gloomy. This isn't collusion, I just happen to have a common enemy with them. That's not simple, we also happen to have a common enemy with Woodleaf. Empress Shomiai blinked. Mizuki-sama, how about you fight your own and I fight mine and we don't interfere with each other? Yagura was annoyed. If he was alone against Kakashi and the other 6, the possibility of losing is very high. However, he quickly calmed down. Come on then. Kakashi looked at Empress Shomiai gratefully, and then rushed toward Yagura. On Woodleaf's side, Genjutsu, Taijutsu, Ninjutsu and all kinds of Kekkei Genkai were endless, while Yagura's side was able to fight back and forth with only water release. Even as an enemy, Kakashi had to admit that the other party was indeed very strong. Unfortunately, you are only one person after all, Kakashi thought. Suddenly, he sensed a powerful chakra rapidly approaching from afar. Who is it? Kakashi was alarmed as an acid bomb was shot at him from afar. With his Sharingan, it wasn't difficult for him to avoid the attack, and soon he saw the appearance of the person. A half-human, half-beast monster covered in red chakra was standing on the sea. A Jinchuriki? However, Empress Shomiai and the others were even more shocked. Looking at the person who came, they were shocked. How is it possible? Hozuki Shinzuki is obviously against the Mizukage. Wasn't Shinzuki imprisoned by the Mizukage? Why is he on his side? Empress Shomiai's pupils shrank. The Mizukage's temperament has changed greatly, and those who were against him are now on his side. Is someone controlling them? Damn it, a Jinchuriki actually came at this time, Kakashi said in his heart. Not only that, but the Kirin ninjas who dived into the sea to rescue people also gradually surfaced. The situation seemed to have changed again. Kirin village. Looking at Bordered Soil who was holding his right eye, Black Zetsu sighed helplessly. There's no need to force yourself like this, it's still too difficult for you to control them. Bordered Soil breathed heavily, and his eyes were full of madness. I can do it, I can. You don't want to kill them but you want to make them suffer. What an awkward mentality. Black Zetsu said in his heart. He was different, he just wanted his 2 brothers to die. In short, you have to be careful, don't let them get out of control. So long-winded, so noisy. On the sea, Empress Shomiai deliberately raised her voice, as if to remind her companions. The situation is not good, we have to be ready to retreat. Kakashi knew that this was also a reminder. Damn it, I can't catch up in the end? I can only prepare for the worst. Kill the Sanbai. Kakashi removed his hand from his left eye, and the big windmill in his pupil rotated again. Extracting a tailed beast from the body of a Jinchuriki is indeed a taboo, but if it's a wild Sanbai, there's no such concern. It's just that Lin will have to sleep for a few more years. Kakashi endured the severe pain of wanting to dig out his eye and used Kamui again. Unlike Yagura, the Sanbai's huge body is like a target, there's no way to avoid it. The power of space distortion is not something the Sanbai's turtle shell can resist. In an instant, a big hole appeared on the back of the Sanbai, and it roared in pain. Just when everyone was shocked by Kakashi's sudden action, no one noticed that the flash of eye power clashed with the eye power that was suppressing Miyazuki Shinzuki. After a moment, his eyes were full of killing intent. At this time you still want to kill the Sanbai, what an annoying guy. Yagura's face was unhappy, and suddenly he looked at Shinzuki with surprise. He seems to have lost control of his Jinchuriki. One more time, I should be able to kill the Sanbai. Kakashi held on and wanted to use his ability again. But at this time Shinzuki, who was standing calmly, suddenly rushed towards him like a madman. Huh. Why do I feel that this guy is a bit strange? Kakashi didn't let down his guard and noticed Shinzuki's movement. But just when he was about to dodge, the side effects of using Mangekyo Sharingan over the limit finally kicked in. His legs went soft, and he was directly sent flying by Shinzuki's half-tailed beast state. Wah! Kakashi spat out a big mouthful of blood in the air and his body sank. Obviously he couldn't even walk on water anymore. Everyone's face changed dramatically. Woodleaf and Yagura were worried about Kakashi's safety, while Kakuzu and Raiga were shocked by Kirin's courage. Aren't they afraid of attracting the monster? Shizune hurriedly ran over to heal him, but Shinzuki obviously didn't want to stop. He roared and rushed towards Kakashi again. Asuma and the others rushed forward to stop him, but the problem is that they have been fighting for a long time, and their stamina was greatly depleted. Shinzuki was the last to arrive, and he was in the best condition. Moreover, the situation of the defending side was always more difficult than the attacking side. In addition, Shinzuki's situation seemed to be very wrong. After being blocked several times, he directly turned into a huge monster. He turned into a complete form. Seeing that things had developed to this point, Mizuki had to take out his kunai and use the power of steel release to crush it. The next moment, a tall figure appeared on the sea surface. Looking at the figure that appeared across space, Kirin's ninjas and Raiga's hearts were filled with fear. That man is here. Chapter 383. It's him, Shimizu Garashi. The real monster is here. That bastard named Kakashi must not die. At this moment, everyone was screaming in fear. Even Black Zetsu and Black Zetsu, who were far away in the mist, were instinctively frightened. Is this the first attack after 3 years? Bordered Soil whispered as he looked at the scene in the mirror. Stop playing. Black Zetsu urged, take advantage of this moment to seal Sanbai. Bordered Soil shook his head slightly. It's too late. Black Zetsu screamed, what did you say? Aren't you just one step away? The place where Kakashi attacked just destroyed the sealing technique I set in advance. Damn it. If Sanbai falls into Woodleaf's hands, it will greatly increase the difficulty of our plan to collect tailed beasts. Don't worry, Bordered Soil's eyes were indifferent. I have a second plan. They can't take Sanbai away. Black Zetsu's eyes lit up. What other plan do you have? Just as he was about to ask, Abito, who had been maintaining a calm demeanor, suddenly widened his eyes and looked at the mirror in disbelief. How is this possible? What's the fuss about? What's impossible for a monster like Shimizu Garashi? He can't be defeated by Rokubi, right? Black Zetsu cursed in his heart as he looked at the mirror. He was stunned and shouted, how is this possible? Let's rewind time a few seconds ago. On the sea. Looking at the little bug that suddenly appeared, Rokubi instinctively felt a burst of discomfort. The other party had a smell that made it uncomfortable. Driven by instinct, Rokubi stretched out a huge palm from its soft body and slapped down at the little bug. However, the figure was frightened and stood motionless until a huge shadow covered him. Then he calmly raised his right hand above his head. Just right, I'll use you to test the results of these 3 years. Boom. The huge palm was easily raised, and no matter how hard Rokubi tried, it couldn't press down. Such a scene was as shocking and absurd as an ant lifting a mountain. Six Tails was stunned for a moment as if it had been humiliated. It angrily extended several arms from its body to slap the other party. Garashi did not have the habit of taking hits passively. He grabbed Rokubi's fingertips and threw it over his shoulder. Lubai was thrown to the ground and didn't react for a long time. It was hit by an ant? Everyone looked at this scene in disbelief. Naturally, they knew that Rokubi was no match for Shimizu Garashi, but how could he defeat a tailed beast with pure physical strength? This was beyond their comprehension. Are you kidding me? A human defeated a tailed beast with his physical body? The strong acid secreted by Rokubi's body can even corrode rocks and the earth. How is he fine? Leah recalled the 2 times he had escaped, and his entire body trembled. He's become even more terrifying. He's like a monster. No, monsters aren't as terrifying as him. Brother Kakuzu, why don't we leave now? Kakuzu nodded in agreement. This was the first time he agreed with Raiga's suggestion. You're right. It's time to strategically move. However, before they could take a few steps, they were stopped by Empress Shomiai and a dozen Kirin ninjas. Raiga-senpai, can we return the village's ninja swords? Raiga's face was gloomy. You guys are no match for us. Of course I know, Empress Shomiai smiled happily. But I can still stop them for a while. Rokubi, who was thrown to the other side of the sea, was stunned for a moment. After a moment of confusion, it roared and pounced on Garashi again. I've been training day and night beside the mineral veins for the past 3 years, using the demon's extreme training method to repair my body with the life energy contained in the mineral veins. That's how I can control more power. Garashi was calm. He stretched out his index finger and pointed forward. Finger gun, positron cannon. The rapidly compressed air cannon was pushed forward at a speed far beyond the speed of sound. The friction with the surrounding air even brought about sparks and static electricity. It was like a beam of light mixed with fire and thunder, directly penetrating Rokubi's body. Although it wasn't fatal, Liu Bai still let out a wail and fell softly on the surface of the sea. Seeing this, Garashi nodded in satisfaction. His soul was much stronger than his body. After absorbing Mithraya's spiritual power 3 years ago, the imbalance between his soul and body was magnified many times. Now, his physical strength had finally caught up with his soul. Raiga noticed this scene from the corner of his eye and felt his scalp tingle. Although Shimizu Garashi was strong in the past, he could at least understand. But now, he could not understand how he could be so strong. With this kind of physical strength, he would believe it if someone said that his species had changed. On the other side, Kakashi's pale face finally regained some color. I'm really useless. I've troubled Senpai again. However, if Senpai makes a move, Sanbai can. Kakashi looked at the direction of Sanbai with joy. His pupils suddenly shrank and he shouted angrily. No. Everyone subconsciously looked at the direction Kakashi was looking at. The chakra around Sanbai's body was boiling violently. They saw Yagura smile. It's over. Boom. Accompanied by a loud noise, a horrible mushroom cloud rose to the sky, and huge waves of hundreds of meters high were instantly set off on the sea surface. Countless winds raged on the sea surface, and dead fish and shrimp fell like raindrops. When everything calmed down, the people of the mist who fell into the sea once again climbed out of the sea in a sorry state. They were shocked when they saw the place where Sanbai was entrenched was replaced by a giant whirlpool. Sanbai, self-destructed? No, the Mizukichi controlled Sanbai to commit suicide. Hiss. He's really decisive. Wait, when did Mizukichi-sama have this ability? I understand it must be because the seal is more than half completed, so Mizukichi-sama can barely control Sanbai, right? Looking at this scene, Kakashi's blood stagnated, and he vomited a big mouthful of blood. Although he was ready to kill Sanbai before, after Senpai came, his heart was rekindled with hope. This kind of difference from hell to heaven and back again was unbearable for him, and then he vomited a few more mouthfuls of blood. Kirin Village. Looking at Kakashi who was constantly vomiting blood, Bordered Soil felt that his soul was sublimated, and he laughed happily. Suffer the same pain as me. Looking at Bordered Soil's sick smile, even Black Zetsu felt a chill on his back, but he soon noticed a strange thing. Even if I can't personally avenge Rin, why is Kakashi so painful? Is there a secret hidden in this? Chapter 384. The storm on the sea gradually calmed down. Looking at the angry Kakashi who wanted to kill him, Yagura sneered. The Sanbai was given to Kirin by your first dame Naruto. I didn't care about you snatching it, but now you're looking at me like that? Asuma sneered. The Sanbai was indeed given to you by the first dame, but you can't keep it, so why can't we take it? Yagura snorted. Whatever you say, in short, the Sanbai is dead now, so there's no need for us to continue fighting. Let's go. With that, Yagura was about to turn around and take the Rokubi. At this time, Garashi suddenly said, Mizukichi-sama, I think you should stay here today. Yagura's body stiffened, but he quickly returned to normal and said in a mocking tone. What? Finally, you don't want to hide your ambition, are you going to use your strength to control Kirin? Hearing this, the Kirin ninjas on the sea looked at Garashi angrily. In their view, it was Woodleaf who maliciously snatched Kirin's tailed beast, forcing the Mizukichi-sama to kill the Sanbai, and now he wants to vent his anger on the Mizukichi-sama. It's too much. Damn it, even if you're the god of ninjas, you can't humiliate Kirin. Let's fight him and use our blood to awaken the others. Looking at Yagura, Garashi chuckled. You're good at provoking people, but it's only useful if you're the Mizukichi. Yagura's eyes were a little flustered, but he quickly concealed it. I am the Mizukichi. You're not. Garashi smiled and shook his head. The real Mizukage can't use genjutsu to control the sandbai, Yagura said in a deep voice. That's a seal. I can't distinguish between genjutsu and genjutsu? Garashi couldn't help but laugh. Besides, is your ability to control the Hozuki Shingeki also a seal? Hearing Aizen's words, everyone's heart was a little shaken. Sir Xan Yu's change of stance was indeed strange. His crazed and bloodthirsty state was even more concerning. Coupled with Shimizu Garashi's almost perfect reputation, they have to doubt the authenticity of the Mizukage-sama. Yagura took a deep breath. I didn't control him. He chose to help me. Garashi smiled and said, why don't you let me remove the illusion for you? Yagura's face was gloomy. I think you're the one who wants to use genjutsu to control me, right? Garashi shrugged. Then you guys from Kirin can do it. Yagura firmly refused. Who knows if they're secretly under your control? Garashi smiled. So, you don't intend to prove it? Yagura scoffed. Why should I listen to you? You're from Woodleaf, what qualifications do you have to interfere with our Kirin's business? Garashi said solemnly. During the Kyuubi rebellion, someone tried to control the 4th generation Naruto. If you're really under their control, then the person behind you might be the one who caused the Kyuubi rebellion. Of course I'm qualified to ask. Hearing Garashi's voice, Raiga and Kakuzu, who were stopped by Empress Shomiai, looked at Yagura. They knew that the person behind the Kyuubi rebellion was Hoodlum's father. And since Hoodlum's father is dead, then the person behind the Mizukage shouldn't be Hoodlum, right? Especially Kakuzu, thinking that the Mizukage didn't seem to want to fight him, he was more convinced of this guess. Yagura asked, what do you want? Garashi said, either you let someone remove the illusion for you, or I'll beat you until you remove the illusion. Yagura's mouth twitched and without saying a word, he rushed in a certain direction. Let's join forces. Seeing Yagura rushing towards them, Kakuzu Raiga's face turned green, and in his heart, many beautiful words came out. However, they also knew that they were blocked by Kirin's people, and once Yagura was defeated, Shimizu Garashi would most likely capture them. Thinking of this, they could only bite the bullet. Garashi glanced at the so-called 3 people joining forces and appeared in front of Raiga like lightning. Why me? Is it because I'm the weakest? Looking at the nightmare that suddenly appeared in front of him, Raiga was depressed and regardless of anything, he raised his thunder sword and slashed at the opponent. The 2 thunder swords were surrounded by electric snakes, and just being close to them gave people a feeling of numbness. However, Shushi did not take any precautions. Instead, he chopped down with his hand. No ninjutsu? Raiga's eyes lit up. Even if your body is strong, the power of lightning is not so easy to bear. However, when the lightning spread to Shimizu Garashi's body, an invisible shield appeared on the surface of his body, blocking the lightning, and when it collided with the thunder sword, it even made a sound of metal colliding. Then, in his incredulous eyes, the thunder sword was knocked away and he was also knocked away. It seems that my armament haki is good. Looking at Raiga, who fell directly on the sea and couldn't get up, Garashi nodded slightly. The combination of spiritual energy and physical energy can be refined into chakra, and the spiritual energy alone can be released in the form of soul coercion, and the physical energy alone is the armament haki demonstrated by Morio. However, it's still not enough. Garashi sighed in his heart. Although he has now reached a balance between soul and body, this is only in a normal state. If he takes back the dream world into his body, his soul strength will undoubtedly usher in a wave of surge. Therefore, he is now trying to focus on physical energy. The first one. Hearing Garashi spit out 3 words, Kakuzu's heart suddenly contracted, and it was too late to think about it. He saw Garashi teleport in front of him and raised his right leg like a sharp axe. You want to beat me without using ninjutsu? Do you think I'm a waste like Raiga? Kakuzu's heart was ruthless and he was ready to lose his life. He gathered the 5 masks on his right arm and met the attack head-on. Earth's Grudge, final shot. 5 attributes of ninjutsu broke out at the same time, but these forces fell on Garashi's body without any reaction. Just like a river washing a stone, it flowed past the stone without any impact. Kakuzu stared in disbelief, and then he was kicked by the other side. At this moment, he felt like he was hit by a running-tailed beast at the speed of sound, his body was falling apart, and 3 of his hearts were broken in an instant. In the distance, looking at Garashi, who defeated 2 strong people in the blink of an eye, Asma muttered to himself, Garashi has become the same as when he was in school. No, he's even more brutal. When he was still in the ninja academy, Garashi was famous for his powerful and violent taijutsu. It was only later that he developed ice release and would release that his fighting style became more harmonious. But now, that terrible memory is coming back again. If Shushi were to teach me a lesson like he did in the past, wouldn't I be beaten to a pulp? Chapter 385. As the battle on the sea came to an end, the chaos in Kirin village also subsided. There were flames everywhere, and the light of the flames illuminated the village, causing hatred and pain to take root and sprout. Damn it, let these ninjas die. How much longer will this endless and meaningless battle last? Why are people in the same village fighting each other? The villagers on the street cursed, but they kept their voices low, afraid of being overheard. In this blood-red environment, a little boy was carried out of the restaurant. The boy didn't struggle, he just said seriously, "I'm diligent and hardworking, I don't need money, just give me something to eat and a place to live." The man who carried him looked at him with disgust. "Who wants a beggar like you? Besides, I'm fighting and killing every day, I can barely feed myself, how can I afford to feed you?" The boy lowered his head in frustration. "Am I still not needed?" The man walked to a corner of the street full of flies and garbage and threw him out roughly. "Don't say I'm cruel, at least you won't starve to death if you eat the garbage here." After the little boy was thrown out, he stood up while holding his aching butt and said, "Uncle, thank you." Although the man didn't respond, the boy wasn't disappointed, he turned and limped towards the garbage. After searching hard, he finally found a few pieces of rotten vegetable leaves that were barely presentable. There was even a piece of unfinished bread. To him, this was already considered a very sumptuous breakfast. "Work hard, Haku. Tomorrow will be better. You'll be needed." Just then, a tempting fragrance came from behind him. The boy couldn't help but look back. A gentle uncle was holding several steaming buns in front of him. Haku couldn't believe his eyes. "Is this for me?" Aizen laughed softly. "Of course, eat quickly." But there's nothing I can do for you," Haku said timidly. "Then leave your future to me." This feeling? Is it because I'm needed? Just as Hakuai was feeling touched, a boy of his age with a red dot on each side of his forehead stepped out from behind the uncle. "You're so slow. Aizen, Sama is giving you something to eat, so just take it." "Your Excellency is called Aizen?" Looking at the two of them, Bai nervously and excitedly stretched out his hands, as if they were not buns, but a ray of sunshine that he had been hoping for. While Bai Xiao was chewing the bun, Aizen suddenly straightened up and looked into the distance. He then touched the little boy's head and said, "I need to leave for a few minutes. Kimimaro, can you take care of him?" Kimimaro rubbed his hand like a puppy and said firmly, "Aizen, Sama, I will protect him." As he spoke, he pulled out a knife made of bone from his shoulder and waved it a few times. Seeing Kimimaro's action, Byakugan, who was eating the bun, was shocked. "You have to protect yourself too." Aizen patted Kimimaro's head and turned to leave. "Hey." Just when Kimimaro's face was red with happiness, Haku whispered behind him, "Thank you. I'm just following Sir Aizen's orders." Kimimaro proudly crossed his arms and then wondered, "You're so weak when you talk and eat, are you a girl?" "Of course I'm a boy," Haku said and then asked, "The ability you just used, is it a Kekkei Genkai?" "I'm from the Kagaya clan," Kimimaro proudly declared. He thought Haku was afraid and explained, "Aizen, Sama said that Kekkei Genkai is not a demon's ability like Kirin claimed. In other parts of the world, Kekkei Genkai is an enviable talent." Haku nodded and then looked at him with longing eyes. "Can you teach me how to control the power of Kekkei Genkai?" "Of course." Kimimaro said, "You also have a Kekkei Genkai?" Haku nodded and blamed himself. "It's just that I can't control it well and easily hurt others." Kimimaro said, "Then show me." "Here." Haku hesitated. "What if I hurt you?" Kimimaro was dissatisfied. "Are you looking down on me?" Seeing Kimimaro's insistence, Haku had to whisper, "Then be careful." Haku tried to use the power in his body, and in the next moment, the entire garbage dump was covered with ice crystals. Fortunately, this was the corner of the street and there was a garbage dump. No one usually came here and no one noticed the movement here. "You're a good guy," Kimimaro said and suddenly felt embarrassed. "Are you from the Snow Clan?" Haku nodded. Kimimaro touched his nose. He knew that Haku's people rebelled under the leadership of the Kagaya clan, and then they were ruthlessly destroyed. Thinking of this, Kimimaro put his arm around Haku's shoulder. "In the future, your business is my business. We will strive to become the most powerful weapon in Aizen-sama's hands." Haku was uncomfortable with Kimimara's excessive enthusiasm, but when he heard the latter, he gave up struggling and agreed, "I will work hard." On the sea. Yagura fell silent when he saw that the two of them were defeated before they even had the chance to reunite. Although he knew that the three of them together were useless, he still had the idea of teaming up to test some of Shimizu Garashi's strength. Although they've already tested some of his strength, how can they summarize it? A punch and a kick? Looking at Yagura, Shushi smiled and said, "Getting rid of two troublemakers in advance is my respect for you, the Mizukage." "I don't want this kind of respect." Yagura complained in his heart, "Fortunately it's not my real body fighting him." "Be careful, I'm going." As soon as his voice fell, Yagura felt a sharp gust of wind coming towards him like a knife. He didn't have time to print and could only rely on his physical instinct to dodge, but he still couldn't dodge and was hit by the fist. "My shoulder blade is broken." Yagura was expressionless. After all, the person controlling him couldn't feel pain. While he was flying in the air, Yagura quickly printed. In the next moment, several water clones jumped out of his body and blocked the attack, while his real body took the opportunity to draw a circle with the iron rod. However, the person who appeared from the circle wasn't Garashi, but Kakashi's clone. Yagura knew that he couldn't copy such a powerful physique. If he forcibly summoned the clone, it would just be an empty shell. But Kakashi is different. No one is more familiar with his own eyes than him, so the Kakashi clone may even retain a part of the Manjikyu Sharingan's power. However, Kakashi's face was gloomy in the distance. "What's this?" Let him see how he was beaten by his senpai. Chapter 386. Facing the clone Kakashi, Garashi didn't have any idea of mercy, and at the moment the clone moved, he punched his head. Seeing this scene, Kakashi only felt a chill on his back and subconsciously touched his head. "Ha, Kakashi is really a waste." Yagura's heart slightly blackened, and then he mobilized the chakra all over his body. Water release, great explosion wave. With his strength, he could create a small lake even on a plane with the water escape technique. Above the sea, he could easily create monstrous waves that were almost on par with the superstorm that Shuei-mu had created with his immortal technique. And the direction of this wave was the location of Mizuki and the others. However, in the face of this terrible wave, several people looked calm, and they didn't even think of jumping into the sea to avoid it. With Garashi here, not to mention a huge wave, even if a meteorite fell they wouldn't be afraid. "Really, I was going to use only taijutsu." Garashi sighed and pressed the seal on the water. Crack, the sea was instantly frozen, and the originally huge wave turned into a magnificent ice sculpture. Yagura was also frozen on the sea, and after several consecutive battles, he didn't have any extra chakra to break free. Sure enough, he is as powerful as a god. Empress Shomiai sighed, the enemy that was invincible in the eyes of the resistance was defeated like this. It was not much more difficult than catching a chicken. Everyone behind her nodded in agreement. Their leader's decision was right. They only contributed a little in the early and late stages, and the result was once and for all. Garashi turned his head and looked in their direction. "He's yours. It's best to find the best genjutsu master in Kirin to remove the genjutsu for him." We will try our best." Everyone looked at each other and smiled awkwardly. There weren't many people who were proficient in genjutsu in the ninja world. Most of them were from the Dojutsu family. Even Woodleaf's strongest genjutsu master was only at the level of Kurenai, not to mention Kirin. Their most powerful genjutsu master was only at the level of ordinary jonin. "Sai, where can I find an illusionist?" While Kirin and the others were in a dilemma, Garashi walked straight towards Kakuzu Raiga. The two of them were currently tied up in a shameful position by a wooden dragon. The two of them still had some strength left and planned to escape while Garashi and Yagura were fighting. However, Garashi noticed them and threw a wooden dragon at them, and then they ended up like this. "I wasn't cautious enough." Raiga sighed inwardly. After his first two successful escapes, he had made up his mind that he would not participate in anything related to Shimizu Garashi. But now, it seemed that he should expand his scope to include Shimizu Garashi's friends. Unlike Raiga's self-pity, Kakuzu only had one thought in his mind. Who will take away the money I put in the organization? Just as the two of them closed their eyes and waited for the trial, a gentle voice sounded. "Can you wait a moment? I want to redeem them like last time." Hearing this voice, Kakuzu Raiga's heart rekindled with hope. Although they knew that Aizen was in Kirin, they didn't expect him to risk his life to save them. Thinking of this, both of them had the same thought. Aizen-senpai is really a good person. Looking towards the direction of the voice, Kirin and the others couldn't believe their eyes. Ayo, what are you talking about? You thick-browed guy, when did you betray Kirin? Garashi squinted his eyes. Don't blame him, he was controlled by someone using genjutsu. Oh, so that's it. Kirin and the others suddenly understood and were even more shocked. Are you kidding? Ao has the Byakugan. Even Ao, who has dojutsu, was controlled by someone. How powerful is the person controlling him? Is this guy controlling Mizukage-sama? Looking at their indignant attitude, Ao shrugged. Don't misunderstand, I didn't control your Mizukage. Garashi asked in a deep voice. You are the masked man who saved Sasori from the Greyer ruins 3 years ago, right? Why do you want to use other people's lives to exchange for theirs? Our lives. Everyone was terrified. Since when had their lives been controlled by the other party? Even Shimizu Garashi is afraid of him. What a terrible guy. Empress Shomiai also lost the joy of saving Kirin. Compared to the hidden terror outside, Kirin's internal threats were insignificant. Of course not, how can you use the same reason twice? Also, Qing Wei smiled and said, I can't control them without my main body present. Garashi said. Then what do you want? Ao smiled. They are just dispensable people to you. Even if you let them go, they won't be a threat. It's better to exchange them for some practical benefits, such as 1,000 stone of Greyer. Garashi was surprised. 1,000 stone of Greyer. So, you were the one who emptied the ruins 3 years ago. Ao didn't explain. What do you think? This is a very good deal. The stone of Greyer can heal internal injuries and repair the body, just like Hitaki Kakashi who abused his kaleidoscope. If he didn't have enough life energy to nourish his eyes, he would have gone blind soon. Hearing the other party mention him, Kakashi subconsciously touched his left eye, which was still in great pain. Will I go blind? This eye was a gift from the bordered soil. If it wasn't for Rin, he wouldn't have abused it like this. Garashi looked thoughtful. After a while, he said, I can exchange people, but it has to be 1,000 stone of Greyer each. Kakuzu and Raiga stared at him. Since the ruins incident 3 years ago, the magical effects of the stone of Greyer had been spread, and the price had been raised to a sky-high price. Although the price had fallen, they couldn't afford 1,000 stone of Greyer even if they sold themselves. No, take out the money from the bottom of the box. I should be able to afford it, Kakuzu thought. Raiga was in despair. He was weak and had no money. He would definitely be abandoned. However, Ao Zen sighed helplessly. You have a unique way of raising the price. But I'm not talented in bargaining. So be it. Raiga was touched by Ao Zen's voice. He looked at Ao Zen and said, Boss, Ao Zen is generous. I'm yours from now on. The people around them were speechless. This was a sky-high price. Thinking of the 1,000 stone of Greyer, many people looked at Raiga and Kakuzu with greedy eyes. It was as if they weren't looking at cruel traders, but gold with money symbols above their heads. Empress Shomiai couldn't help but lick her sexy lips. Years of war had caused the village's finances to go bankrupt. If they could capture these two, wouldn't they have an endless supply of funds? Chapter 387. Why are these bastards looking at me with such terrifying gazes? Raiga felt a chill run down his spine when he was stared at by so many greedy gazes. Fortunately, I still have a reliable companion. Raiga turned his head and saw Kakuzu's green eyes that resembled those of a hungry wolf. He wants to sell me? Raiga felt his scalp tingle. What kind of teammates are these? They're far worse than Aizen. Raiga couldn't help but yell, Don't look at me like that. Do you want Aizen-senpai to give you money? Don't worry, I just can't control my eyes. Having said that, Kakuzu thought, of course I can't sell him directly to Aizen, but I can act as a middleman and sell him to other ninja villages. At this time, Empress Shomiai suddenly asked, that? Before releasing him, can you return his thunder sword to Kirin? Although it was a bit difficult to ask, the Yakumo was taken away by Kisame, and the village's last ninja sword was gone. The 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword were all gone. For the sake of the village, she could only ask. Hearing this, Garashi glanced at Aizen. Seeing that he didn't say anything, he looked at Raiga and asked, Do you have any objections? I think. Raiga opened his mouth, but the wood dragon that bound him leaned over and kissed him. Raiga's body trembled and he forced a smile. I think this proposal is very good. As a former member of Kirin's team, I also hope to see Kirin become stronger again. Garashi nodded with satisfaction and looked at Empress Shomiai and said, I hope these two thunder swords can be used as a witness to Woodleaf and Kirin's reunion. Empress Shomiai smiled brightly, definitely. Kirin and the others laughed happily. After witnessing Shimizu Garashi's strength, they only had one thought in their minds. They must be harmonious, and anyone who dares to mess around will be beaten to death. Everyone was laughing, but Raiga was lamenting in his heart, my swords, because they are dual swords. Now his status in the group was reduced by one again. That's not right. I've always been at the bottom of this group. Even if I lose the Thunder Sword, my status won't drop. Thinking of this, Raiga found some consolation. Other than Leah, there was another sad person in Kirin village. Damn it. My 3 years of planning is gone just like that. Bordered Soil clenched his fists and growled in pain. Who's to blame? Wouldn't it have been fine if he had sealed it earlier when he already had a sure win? Black Setsu didn't want to provoke him any further. It's just Kirin. There's no need to be so calculative. Besides, don't you have a capable assistant? Thinking of ghost mermaids and mermen, Bordered Soil was slightly comforted. That man was someone he thought highly of. He even did not hesitate to expose his identity and planned to rope him in. Seeing that the Bordered Soil had calmed down, Black Setsu began to think about his concerns. How did Shimizu Garashi become stronger again? How could an ordinary human become stronger without limit? It doesn't make sense. Although he was afraid of Shimizu Garashi before, he was only worried that the other party would destroy his plan. He didn't worry much about the final result. As long as Madara is resurrected, with the Rinnegan and Hashirama's physique, defeating Shimizu Garashi shouldn't be too difficult. But now, Shimizu Garashi was so strong that even he couldn't understand him. In his opinion, human beings had limits, at most they were like Hashirama. After Shimizu Garashi reached his limit early, it should be impossible for him to become stronger. But the fact is, the other party seemed to have no limit. Therefore he felt a sense of crisis in his heart. If we continue to develop step by step and don't speed up, with Shimizu Garashi's speed of progress, when Madara is resurrected, he might be able to beat him to the ground. After a harmonious transaction, Aizen removed the genjutsu he cast on Blue, avoided the greedy eyes, and led Kakuzu and Hashirama to his main body. Looking at the two children, Kimimaro and Haku had some doubts. Are they also adopted by Aizen-sama? Seeing that Aizen had found the two children, Raiga and the other two were confused, but they didn't think too much about it. Instead, they thanked Aizen sincerely. Aizen-sama, thank you so much for this. I will definitely work hard to earn enough money to pay you back. Looking at Raiga and Hashirama, Aizen wanted to laugh. The main purpose of saving them was to give the Stone of Grayer to Yahiko. After all, in the eyes of Yahiko and Yahiko, the Stone of Grayer was his private property. It was fine if it was only a few, but if it was in large quantities, then it would be a problem. So, what are you two tools feeling so touched about? Aizen sighed secretly and said, It's just a stone, don't worry about it. It's fine as long as you're okay. Hearing Aizen's words, the two were moved. Of course, Raiga was moved because he saved his life, while Kakuzu was moved because of Aizen's wealth. After learning about Aizen's wealth, he knew he had to make friends with him. After thanking him, Raiga had some doubts. Is the Mizukage really being controlled? Is it Fai-sama who controlled him? Kakuzu said concisely. It's possible. Aizen laughed. Why don't we ask him in a meeting in a few days? Meeting? Raiga asked. Did the leader inform him? Not yet, but... Aizen said, I got news from Kumo that Reikage is planning to hold a 5 Kages conference in response to our actions in those small countries. After the news spread, it's expected that the leader would hold a meeting. What? 5 Kages conference? Raiga and Kakuzu were shocked. What? 5 Kages conference? Asuma and the others were shocked. After the battle, everyone in Kirin invited Garashi and the others to visit Kirin. Because they had a lot to say to Garashi, and Kakashi needed to rest for a few days, everyone agreed. At this moment they were all around Garashi, shocked by the big event he mentioned. Garashi nodded slightly. This is also the reason why I stayed in Kirin. After the Mizukage's matter is solved, I will officially inform them. If we don't count the armistice agreement after the war, this should be the first 5 Kages conference after the Shoidame-sama. Asuma said. I really want to see it. Shizen's expression was strange. You should think about who will replace Woodleaf in the conference before you say something like that. Asuma's mind flashed with the image of an old man wrapped in bandages, and he suddenly felt lost. Well, I'm not looking forward to it at all. That you're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.